Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Izuku became Mirko's personal assistant and gradually she started liking him, part 2. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel and like this video, so let's begin the video. The early summer sun streamed through the nursery windows as Izuku carefully assembled the crib, following the instructions with meticulous attention to detail. Mirko sat in the rocking chair they had purchased the previous week, one hand resting on her now prominent belly, watching him work with an amused expression. At 7 months pregnant, she had finally accepted that her days of active hero work were behind her until after the baby arrived, though she still consulted with her agency on strategy and coordination from home. "You know we still have 2 months before the baby arrives, right?" she observed. "We do not need to have everything perfect this very second. I want to be prepared," Izuku replied, double-checking that he had tightened each bolt correctly. "What if the baby comes early? What if we suddenly need something and do not have it ready? Then we would figure it out, like every other parent in history." Mirko shifted in the rocking chair, trying to find a comfortable position. Her back had been bothering her lately, the weight of the pregnancy putting strain on her usually resilient body. "You are going to drive yourself crazy with this level of planning." "Planning is what I do best," Izuku pointed out, standing back to examine his work. "The crib looks good. What do you think?" "It looks perfect," Mirko assured him. "Just like the changing table you assembled yesterday, and the bookshelf you put together last week, and the dresser before that. Our baby is going to have the most organized nursery in all of Japan." Izuku moved to sit on the floor beside her rocking chair, leaning his head against her leg. "I just want everything to be right for our child. I want them to have the best possible start." Mirko's expression softened, her fingers running through his curly green hair. "I know, and I love that about you. But our baby is not going to care if the nursery is perfectly organized or if we have every possible item we might need. What they are going to care about is being loved and safe and cared for. And they will have all of that in abundance." "You are right," Izuku admitted. "I am probably overthinking things." "Probably," Mirko teased gently. "Definitely. But it is endearing, so I will allow it." The particularly strong kick from the baby made Mirko wince slightly, and Izuku immediately noticed. "Are you okay? Is the baby kicking a lot?" "This kid has your analytical brain and my energy level," Mirko said wryly. "They are constantly moving around in there. I think they are training to be a hero already." Izuku placed his hand on her belly and felt a series of strong movements. "Wow, they are really active today. Tell me about it. I have been feeling like I have a small martial arts tournament happening inside me for the past hour." Mirko covered his hand with hers. "The doctor says it is completely normal and actually a good sign that the baby is healthy and strong." "That is good. Have you been doing the exercises the physical therapist recommended for your back?" "Yes, Dad," Mirko replied with mock exasperation, though her eyes were warm. "I did them this morning and I will do them again this evening. I am following all the medical advice, I promise." "I am sorry for being overprotective. I just worry about you." "I know you do, and honestly, it is kind of sweet." Mirko leaned down to kiss the top of his head. "Even if you sometimes treat me like I am made of glass, which I am not, by the way. I am still the rabbit hero, just temporarily out of commission." "You are also carrying our child, which makes you precious cargo," Izuku countered. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, both of them looking around the nearly complete nursery. The soft green walls were decorated with subtle hero-themed art that Izuku had commissioned from a local artist, depictions of strength and courage rendered in gentle child-appropriate styles. The furniture was all assembled and arranged optimally for functionality and safety. Shelves held books about heroes, adventure stories, and educational texts that Izuku had been collecting for months. The mobile hung above the crib, featuring small plush versions of various hero symbols rotating gently. "We still need to finalize a name," Mirko said eventually. "We have been putting it off, but we should probably decide before the baby actually arrives." They had been discussing names for months, creating lists and debating options, but had not committed to anything definitive. The challenge was finding something that honored their values and hopes for their child without being too obvious or putting too much pressure on them. "I have been thinking about that," Izuku said. "What if we chose a name that represents hope and new beginnings? Something that does not lock them into any particular path but gives them inspiration." "I like that approach," Mirko agreed. "What were you thinking specifically?" "For a girl, maybe Hikari. It means light, which represents hope and guidance." Izuku glanced up at her. "And for a boy, I was thinking Haruto, which can mean soar or fly. Both names have positive meanings without being explicitly hero-themed." Mirko considered this thoughtfully. "Hikari Midoriya Sagayama. Haruto Midoriya Sagayama." She tested both names out loud. "I like them. They are strong but not aggressive, hopeful but not presumptuous." "Should we wait until we meet the baby to decide which one fits better?" "That sounds perfect." We will have both names ready and see which one feels right when we finally hold our child." Izuku stood up and helped Mirko to her feet, supporting her as she stretched to relieve the strain on her back. "Want to go for a walk in the garden? The doctor said gentle exercise is good for you." "The walk sounds nice," Mirko agreed. "This baby is making me restless just sitting around all day." They made their way outside to their garden, which had become one of Izuku's ongoing projects. He had spent months learning proper care for the koi pond, the cherry blossom trees, and the various plants that filled the space. The garden had become a peaceful retreat for both of them, a place where they could escape the pressures of their respective careers and just exist together. As they walked slowly along the stone path that wound through the garden, Mirko held Izuku's arm for support, her balance affected by the pregnancy's changes to her center of gravity. The early summer air was warm but not oppressively hot, perfect weather for a gentle stroll. "I have been thinking about what happens after the baby is born," Mirko said as they walked. "Specifically about my hero work and how to balance everything. What are your thoughts?" "I want to go back to active duty eventually, but not immediately. Maybe take 6 months of maternity leave, really focus on bonding with the baby and establishing routines." Mirko paused to watch the koi swimming lazily in the pond. "But I do not want to lose my edge or my ranking. Being a hero is part of who I am." "No one is asking you to give that up," Izuku assured her. "We will figure out childcare arrangements that work for both of our careers. My teaching schedule is flexible, and I can do most of my consulting work from home. When you go back to hero work, we will make sure the baby is well cared for." "What if I am not a good mother?" Mirko's voice was uncharacteristically vulnerable. "What if I am too rough or impatient? What if the baby needs someone gentler and I do not know how to be that?" Izuku stopped walking and turned to face her fully, taking both her hands in his. "Rumi, you are going to be an incredible mother. Yes, you are fierce and strong, but I have seen your gentle side too. I have seen how you care for people, how you protect those who cannot protect themselves, how you have endless patience when something truly matters to you. But a baby is so fragile, so dependent. What if I mess up? We are both going to mess up sometimes. That is part of parenting." Izuku squeezed her hands reassuringly. "But our baby is going to have 2 parents who love them unconditionally, who will always put their well-being first, who will support them in becoming whoever they are meant to be. That is what matters." "How do you always know the right thing to say?" Mirko asked, tears forming in her eyes. "Damn pregnancy hormones, making me cry at everything." "I just tell you the truth," Izuku said, pulling her into a gentle hug. "You are amazing, Rumi. Our child is so lucky to have you as a mother." "They are lucky to have you as a father too," Mirko murmured against his shoulder. "You are going to be so good at this, so patient and understanding and supportive." "We are going to be good at this together," Izuku corrected. That evening, after a quiet dinner at home, they settled on the couch to watch a movie. Mirko had her feet elevated on Izuku's lap, and he was giving her a gentle foot massage while they watched, something that had become a nightly ritual as her pregnancy progressed and her feet became increasingly swollen and sore. Halfway through the movie, Izuku's phone rang with a call from the Hero Commission. He considered letting it go to voicemail, but the call was marked urgent, so he answered. "Midoriya, we have a situation," the commission representative said without preamble. "There is a hostage crisis developing downtown, and the villain appears to have a complex psychological quirk. We need your analytical assessment as soon as possible." "I will be there in 30 minutes, Izuku replied, already standing up. "Actually, we were hoping you could consult remotely. We will set up a video link to the command center so you can observe and provide guidance without having to leave home." The representative paused. "We know your wife is pregnant, and you should not have to travel if it is not absolutely necessary." "That would be ideal, thank you. Send me the connection information." After hanging up, Izuku explained the situation to Mirko. "I am sorry, I know we were having a quiet evening." "Do not apologize," Mirko said firmly. "This is your work, and it is important. People's lives could depend on your analysis. Go do what you do best." Izuku set up his laptop in his home office, connecting to the commission's secure network. The video feed showed a tense situation. A villain had taken over a small office building and was holding approximately 15 people hostage. The villain's quirk appeared to allow them to manipulate emotions, causing panic, fear, and confusion in anyone who got too close. For the next 3 hours, Izuku worked with the incident commander, analyzing the villain's behavior patterns, predicting their likely responses to various negotiation tactics, and developing a strategic approach that would minimize risk to the hostages. He identified the villain's psychological vulnerabilities through careful observation of their speech patterns and body language, information that proved crucial when the negotiation team engaged with them. Mirko checked on him periodically, bringing him tea and snacks, making sure he took brief breaks to stretch and rest his eyes. Despite her own discomfort from the pregnancy, she made sure he was taken care of, understanding how intense this kind of work could be. Finally, around 11 at night, the situation resolved peacefully. The negotiation team, armed with Izuku's psychological profile and strategic recommendations, successfully convinced the villain to release the hostages and surrender. No one was seriously hurt, and the villain was taken into custody without violence. "Excellent work, Midoriya," the incident commander said over the video link. "Your analysis was instrumental in resolving this peacefully. The hostages are all safe, and that is in large part thanks to you." "I am glad everyone is okay," Izuku replied, feeling the exhaustion wash over him now that the crisis had passed. That is what matters most. After disconnecting, he found Mirko waiting for him in the living room, still awake despite the late hour. She opened her arms, and he collapsed onto the couch beside her, resting his head on her shoulder. "Successful resolution?" she asked, stroking his hair gently. "All hostages safe, villain in custody, no injuries. It was a good outcome." "You did that," Mirko said proudly. "You helped save those people. The negotiation team and the heroes on site did the actual work. I just provided analysis." "We have had this argument before," Mirko reminded him. "Your analysis saves lives. That is heroic work, even if you are not wearing a costume." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, both too tired to move, but content in each other's presence. Finally, Mirko spoke again. "You know, our kid is going to be so proud of you. Being able to say my dad saves people with his brain is pretty amazing. And they will be proud to say my mom is one of the top heroes in Japan," Izuku countered. "We make a good team, present and future tense," Mirko said with a smile. "The best team," Izuku agreed, the familiar refrain bringing comfort as it always did. The following week brought Izuku's mother for an extended visit. Inko had taken time off from her work to help prepare for the baby's arrival and spend time with her son and daughter-in-law. She arrived laden with bags full of baby supplies, home-cooked meals that she insisted on freezing for after the baby arrived, and endless enthusiasm. "Mom, you did not need to bring so much," Izuku protested as he helped carry bags into the house. "Nonsense, I am going to be a grandmother, I am allowed to spoil my grandchild," Inko declared. "Besides, you two have been so busy that I wanted to make sure you had everything you needed." Mirko greeted Inko warmly, the two women having developed a close relationship over the past year. They spent the afternoon organizing baby clothes, discussing preparations, and chatting about everything from pregnancy symptoms to future plans. "How are you feeling, Rumi dear?" Inko asked as they folded tiny onises together. "Huge, tired, and ready for this baby to arrive," Mirko replied honestly. "Though the doctor says I still have about 7 weeks to go, so I need to be patient." "The last few weeks are always the hardest," Inko said sympathetically. "I remember being so uncomfortable when I was pregnant with Izuku. But it is all worth it the moment you hold your baby for the first time." "That is what everyone keeps telling me. I am trying to stay positive, but some days it is harder than others." "That is completely normal. Pregnancy is difficult, both physically and emotionally." Inko patted Mirko's hand gently. "But you are doing wonderfully, and you have Izuku to support you. That makes all the difference." "He has been incredible," Mirko admitted. "Patient and understanding and helpful beyond measure. I do not know what I would do without him." "He learned from the best," Inko said with a warm smile. "I raised him to be kind and supportive. I am glad he is putting those qualities to good use." That evening, Inko prepared elaborate family dinner, filling the house with delicious smells and comfortable domestic warmth. As they ate together, the conversation flowed easily, touching on memories from Izuku's childhood, stories about Mirko's early hero career, and speculation about what their baby would be like. "Have you thought about whether you want the baby to become a hero if they have a quirk?" Inko asked at one point. Izuku and Mirko exchanged glances, having discussed this topic many times themselves. "We want them to choose their own path," Izuku said carefully. "If they want to be a hero and have the aptitude for it, we will support that completely. But if they want to do something else, that is equally valid and important." "The hero world is not for everyone," Mirko added. "It is dangerous and demanding and requires a specific type of dedication. If our kid has other interests or talents, I would never want them to feel pressure to become a hero just because their mom is one." "That is a very balanced approach," Inko approved. "Too many hero parents push their children into the same career without considering what the child actually wants." "We have both seen the damage that can cause," Izuku said. "Students at UA who are only there because of family pressure, not genuine interest. We do not want that for our child." "What if the baby is quirkless?" Inko asked gently, knowing this was a sensitive topic. "Have you discussed how you would handle that?" "Then they will grow up knowing that being quirkless does not make them less valuable or capable," Izuku replied firmly. "They will have a father who understands exactly what that is like and who has built a successful, meaningful career, despite not having a quirk. We will make sure they never feel the way I did growing up, like they are somehow deficient or less than others." And they will have parents who will fight anyone who tries to make them feel that way, Mirko added with a fierce protectiveness that made Inko smile. After dinner, while Mirko rested on the couch with her feet elevated, Inko helped Izuku clean up the kitchen. She took the opportunity to talk to her son privately. "You seem happy, sweetheart," she observed. "Truly happy." "I am, Mom. More than I ever thought possible." Izuku dried a plate carefully. "Marrying Rumi was the best decision I ever made, and now we are about to become parents. It feels like my life has come together in ways I never dreamed of. I am so proud of you, Izuku. You have built a wonderful life for yourself." Inko paused in her washing. "I know growing up was not always easy for you, dealing with being quirkless and the challenges that brought. But you never gave up, you found your own path, and now look at where you are." "I had you supporting me every step of the way," Izuku pointed out. "You never made me feel like being quirkless meant I could not achieve my dreams. You just helped me find different dreams that were equally meaningful. And now you are going to give that same support to your own child," Inko said. "That is what good parenting is, helping your children become the best version of themselves, whoever that might be." The next few weeks passed in a flurry of final preparations. Izuku and Mirko attended childbirth classes, learning breathing techniques and what to expect during labor. They toured the hospital where Mirko would deliver, familiarizing themselves with the maternity ward and procedures. They finalized their birth plan, discussed pain management options, and made sure they had everything packed and ready for when the time came. Mirko's physical discomfort increased as the pregnancy progressed into the final month. She had trouble sleeping, her back ached constantly, and she was experiencing frequent Braxton Hicks contractions that were uncomfortable, even though they were not true labor. Izuku did everything he could to help, from midnight back rubs to preparing special meals that did not upset her increasingly sensitive stomach, to simply being present and supportive when she needed to vent about how miserable she felt. "I am never doing this again," Mirko declared one particularly difficult night when she could not find a comfortable position to sleep in. "One child is enough. I am done being pregnant after this. We can discuss that after the baby arrives and you have had time to recover," Izuku said diplomatically, knowing that many women felt this way during late pregnancy but changed their minds later. "No, I am serious. This is awful. I feel like a beached whale, I cannot do any of the physical activities I love, and I am constantly uncomfortable." Mirko shifted again, trying fruitlessly to find relief. "How do people do this multiple times?" "Because they forget how bad the uncomfortable parts were once they have the baby," Izuku suggested. "The joy of the child outweighs the memory of the difficulty of pregnancy." "That seems like a biological trick to ensure continuation of the species," Mirko grumbled, but with less heat than before. "Probably," Izuku agreed. "But right now, let us focus on getting through these last few weeks as comfortably as possible. Can I get you anything? More pillows? Ice water? A snack? Just stay here with me," Mirko requested, her voice softening. "That helps more than anything else." Izuku settled beside her on the bed, adjusting pillows to support her as best he could, and held her hand while they both tried to rest. Even though neither of them slept much that night, they took comfort in being together, facing the challenges as a team the way they always had. At 38 weeks pregnant, Mirko had a routine checkup that brought unexpected news. The doctor examined her carefully, checked various measurements and readings, and then looked at them both seriously. "Everything is progressing well," the doctor said. "The baby is healthy, in the correct position, and showing all the signs of being ready for birth. However, given the baby's size and your frame, I am recommending we schedule an induction for next week rather than waiting for natural labor to begin." "Is something wrong?" Izuku asked immediately, concerned. "Nothing is wrong," the doctor assured him. "But the baby is measuring large, likely due to inheriting some of Mirko's physical quirk traits, and I think it would be safer for both mother and baby to have a controlled delivery rather than risking complications if we wait much longer." Mirko and Izuku looked at each other, communicating silently the way they had learned to do over their time together. "What do you think?" Mirko asked him. "I think we should follow the doctor's recommendation. If it is safer for you and the baby, that is what matters most." "Okay," Mirko agreed, turning back to the doctor. "Schedule the induction. Let us meet our baby." They set the date for 6 days later, giving them time to make final preparations and mentally prepare for the reality that they were about to become parents. The knowledge that they had a specific date and time made everything feel suddenly very real and immediate. "We are going to have a baby in less than a week," Mirko said that evening as they sat together in the nursery, both of them looking around at the carefully prepared space that would soon hold their child. "We are," Izuku confirmed, his hand finding hers and squeezing gently. "Are you scared?" "Terrified," Mirko admitted. "Not of the birth itself, I can handle pain and physical challenges. But of everything that comes after. Being responsible for this tiny person, making sure we do not mess them up, being good parents." "I am scared too," Izuku said honestly. "But I am also excited. We are going to meet our child, Rumi. Our baby. The person we created together out of love. That is pretty incredible when you put it that way, Mirko agreed, leaning her head on his shoulder. We made a person. We did. And we are going to love them and support them and do our absolute best to raise them well. They sat in the quiet nursery for a long time, both processing the enormity of what was about to happen. Their lives were about to change irrevocably, to expand in ways they could not fully anticipate. But they would face it together, the way they faced everything, as partners and teammates and two people deeply in love. The next few days passed in a strange mixture of anticipation and last-minute preparations. Izuku triple-checked their hospital bag, making sure they had everything they might need. Mirko finished last-minute work emails in coordination with her agency, ensuring everything would run smoothly during her maternity leave. They had meals with friends and family, everyone offering advice and well wishes. Hawk stopped by with an elaborate gift basket filled with baby supplies and a card that read, "Congratulations on the newest member of your team. May they inherit your analytical skills and Mirko's ability to kick ass, though preferably not literally until they are older." Ryukyu visited with a beautiful handmade blanket she had commissioned from an artisan, soft and warm and perfect for swaddling a newborn. Endeavor, in a surprisingly thoughtful gesture, sent a substantial contribution to a college fund they had set up for the baby, along with a brief note congratulating them on their growing family. Inko stayed at the house for the final days before the induction, helping with cooking and cleaning and providing emotional support. She was almost as excited as Izuku and Mirko themselves, looking forward to meeting her first grandchild. The night before the scheduled induction, Izuku and Mirko lay in bed together, neither of them able to sleep. Tomorrow their lives would change forever, and the weight of that reality was both thrilling and overwhelming. "Any last thoughts before we become parents?" Mirko asked softly in the darkness. "Just that I love you, and I am so grateful we are doing this together," Izuku replied. "I cannot imagine having a child with anyone else." "Same here. You are going to be such a good dad, Izuku. And you are going to be an incredible mom." They held each other in the quiet darkness, drawing strength and comfort from their closeness. Tomorrow would bring challenges and changes, pain and joy, fear and excitement. But they would face it all together, the way they always had, united in love and commitment, and the shared purpose of welcoming their child into the world. The alarm went off at 5 in the morning, though neither of them had really slept much. They moved through their morning routine in a sort of daze, getting dressed, eating a light breakfast, doing final checks of their hospital bag. Inko fussed over them both, making sure they had everything they needed, offering encouragement and support. The drive to the hospital was quiet, both Izuku and Mirko lost in their own thoughts. Izuku held Mirko's hand the entire way, his thumb rubbing gentle circles on her skin, a silent reminder that he was there and they were in this together. At the hospital, they were checked in and shown to a labor and delivery room. The staff was professional and kind, explaining the induction process and what to expect over the coming hours. Mirko changed into a hospital gown, and Izuku helped her get settled in the bed before the medical team began the induction. The labor was long and challenging. Mirko, true to her nature, faced it with fierce determination, refusing pain medication initially because she wanted to experience everything fully. But as the hours progressed and the contractions intensified, she eventually accepted an epidural, allowing her some relief while still being alert and present. Izuku stayed by her side through all of it, holding her hand, offering ice chips and words of encouragement, being her anchor through the intensity of labor. He had attended the childbirth classes and read all the books, but nothing had fully prepared him for the reality of watching Mirko go through this, seeing the woman he loved in pain, and being able to do so little to help. "You are doing amazing," he told her during a particularly intense contraction. "So strong and brave. I am in awe of you." Less talking, more ice chips, Mirko managed through gritted teeth, and Izuku immediately obliged. 14 hours after the induction began, the doctor announced that Mirko was fully dilated and it was time to push. The next hour was intense and primal, Mirko drawing on every ounce of her considerable strength and determination to bring their child into the world. Izuku supported her through it all, offering encouragement and support, even as his own emotions threatened to overwhelm him. And then, with one final push, their baby arrived. The sound of a crying infant filled the room, and Izuku felt tears streaming down his face as the doctor announced, "It is a girl. You have a healthy baby girl." The medical team quickly cleaned and checked the baby before placing her on Mirko's chest. Both parents stared at their daughter in wonder, overwhelmed by the tiny perfect person they had created together. "She is beautiful," Mirko whispered, tears running down her face as she held their daughter carefully. "Look at her, Izuku. Look at what we made." "She is perfect," Izuku agreed, his voice choked with emotion as he gently touched his daughter's tiny hand. "Absolutely perfect." The baby had a small tuft of green hair, clearly inherited from Izuku, but her face seemed to carry features from both parents. Her eyes, when she briefly opened them, appeared to be somewhere between Izuku's green and Mirko's red, a unique amber color. She was small but clearly healthy, her lungs proving strong as she continued to cry. "What should we name her?" Mirko asked, looking at Izuku. "We said we would decide when we met her." Izuku looked at his daughter, this tiny miracle that was his child, and knew immediately which name fit. "Hikari," he said softly. "Her name is Hikari. Our light." "Hikari," Mirko repeated, testing the name. "Yes. That is perfect. Hikari Midoriya Sagayama." The medical team gave them time for skin-to-skin contact and initial bonding before taking Hikari for standard newborn procedures. They weighed and measured her, finding her to be a healthy 7 pounds and 2 ounces, 18 inches long. They checked all her vital signs and reflexes, confirming that she was developing normally. Once Mirko was moved to a recovery room and settled, they brought Hikari back, now cleaned and swaddled in a soft blanket. Izuku held his daughter for the first time, cradling her carefully in his arms, marveling at how tiny and fragile she seemed. "Hello, Hikari," he whispered. "I am your daddy. I have been waiting so long to meet you." Hikari made small sounds, not quite crying but clearly aware of this new voice. Her tiny hand wrapped around Izuku's finger with surprising strength, and he felt his heart melt completely. "She already has you wrapped around her little finger," Mirko observed with amusement from her hospital bed. "Completely and utterly," Izuku agreed. "I would do anything for this child." "Welcome to Parenthood," Mirko said. "From now on, everything is about making sure this little person is happy and healthy and loved." "I am ready for that," Izuku said, carefully transferring Hikari back to Mirko's arms. "We are going to be the best parents we can be." "Damn right we are," Mirko agreed, gazing at their daughter with an expression of pure love. They allowed Inko to visit later that evening, and the new grandmother cried happy tears as she held her granddaughter for the first time. "She is beautiful, just beautiful. She looks like both of you." Other visitors came over the next day, each one bringing gifts and congratulations. Hawks made jokes about teaching Hikari to fly once she developed her quirk. Ryukyu offered to babysit whenever they needed help. Even Endeavor stopped by briefly, looking awkward but offering genuine congratulations and admitting that parenthood had been the most meaningful part of his own life. After 2 days in the hospital, they were cleared to go home. Izuku carefully installed Hikari in her car seat, taking extra time to ensure everything was secure and safe. The drive home was nerve-wracking, both of them hyper-aware of their precious cargo. Arriving home with their daughter felt surreal. This was it, the beginning of their life as a family of 3. They brought Hikari into the house, into the nursery they had so carefully prepared, and gently placed her in the crib they had assembled weeks ago. "Welcome home, Hikari," Mirko said softly. "This is where you are going to grow up, where you are going to be loved and protected and supported in becoming whoever you are meant to be." That first night home was challenging. Hikari woke every 2 hours to feed, and neither Izuku nor Mirko got much sleep. They took turns comforting her, changing diapers, and just watching her sleep when she finally settled. It was exhausting but also magical, this first full day of being parents. Over the following weeks, they settled into a rhythm. Mirko was recovering from the birth, but gradually regaining her strength. Izuku took a temporary leave from his teaching and consulting work to focus entirely on supporting his family. They learned Hikari's patterns, her different cries meaning different needs, her preferences for being held and soothed. Inko stayed for the first 2 weeks, helping with cooking and cleaning, so that Izuku and Mirko could focus on the baby. Her presence was invaluable, offering wisdom from her own parenting experience and providing an extra set of hands when things got overwhelming. "You are both doing wonderfully," she assured them one evening when they were both exhausted and doubting themselves. "All new parents feel overwhelmed at first. But you are learning, adapting, and most importantly, you are doing it together. That is what matters most." As Hikari grew and developed, they watched in wonder as she hit each new milestone. Her first smile at 6 weeks old made them both cry with joy. Her first time sleeping for a 4-hour stretch felt like a miracle. The way she would calm immediately when Izuku sang softly to her, or how she seemed to relax when Mirko held her close, these small moments filled their days with meaning and purpose. 1 month after Hikari's birth, they had a small celebration at home to introduce her to more friends and colleagues. The house was filled with pro heroes and their families, all cooing over the baby and offering congratulations. "She is going to be a heartbreaker when she grows up," Hawks observed, making faces at Hikari who was watching him with wide curious eyes. "She already knows how to work a room." "She gets that from her mother," Izuku said with a smile. "Please, she gets her observation skills from you," Mirko countered. "Look how she studies everyone. That is pure analytical brain at work." "They are going to be a formidable combination of both of you," Ryukyu predicted. "Smart and strong and capable of anything they set their mind to." As the party wound down and guests departed, Izuku and Mirko sat together in the nursery, Hikari sleeping peacefully in Mirko's arms. They looked at their daughter, this perfect little person they had created together, and felt a sense of completion and purpose that transcended everything else in their lives. "We did it," Mirko said softly. We created a whole entire person and we are keeping her alive and healthy. We are, Izuku agreed. And we are going to keep doing it every single day for the rest of our lives. No regrets. Not even one. This is the hardest thing I have ever done but also the most rewarding. Mirko looked down at Hikari. I love her so much it is almost scary. I know exactly what you mean, Izuku said. Sometimes I look at her and I am overwhelmed by how much I love her, how much I want to protect her and give her the best life possible. We will, Mirko said with certainty. Whatever it takes, we will make sure she grows up happy and loved and confident in who she is. As they sat together in the quiet nursery, the three of them forming their own small family unit, Izuku reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. From a nervous job interview to falling in love to marriage to now parenthood, each step had felt both unexpected and perfectly right. Their story was far from over. There would be more challenges ahead, sleepless nights and difficult decisions and all the complexities of raising a child. But they would face it all together, partners in every sense, united by love and commitment and the shared purpose of giving their daughter the best life they could provide. The future stretched out before them, full of infinite possibilities. But for now, in this moment, everything was exactly as it should be. They were together, they were a family, and they were home. The autumn morning arrived with a crispness that signaled the changing of seasons, and with it, the awareness that their daughter was now 4 months old. Izuku stood in the kitchen preparing bottles for Hikari, while simultaneously reviewing notes for his return to teaching at UA, which was scheduled to begin the following week. The past few months had been a whirlwind of sleepless nights, endless diaper changes, and a steep learning curve of first-time parenthood, but they had survived and even thrived in their own chaotic way. Mirko appeared in the doorway, Hikari cradled against her shoulder, the baby's green hair sticking up in every direction from sleep. Our daughter has decided that 5 in the morning is an acceptable wake-up time, she announced, though there was no real complaint in her voice. I tried to get her back to sleep, but she was having none of it. She is an early riser like her mother, Izuku observed with a smile, reaching out to take Hikari. The baby immediately made happy gurgling sounds when she saw her father, her tiny hands reaching for his face with the uncoordinated enthusiasm of an infant. Do not blame this on me. I would happily sleep until 7 if hero work allowed it, Mirko protested, pouring herself coffee. This is definitely your influence. You are always up at ungodly hours preparing things. Guilty as charged, Izuku admitted, settling Hikari in his arms and offering her a bottle. She latched on immediately, her amber eyes watching him with an intensity that reminded him of how Mirko analyzed everything around her. How are you feeling about starting physical therapy today? Mirko had finally been cleared to begin the process of returning to active hero work, though it would be a gradual transition. The pregnancy and birth had taken a toll on her body in ways that even her powerful quirk had not been able to immediately overcome, and she had been frustrated by the slower than expected recovery process. Nervous, honestly, she admitted, sitting at the kitchen table with her coffee. I know I am not going to be at full capacity immediately, but it is hard to accept that. I have spent my whole adult life being one of the strongest heroes, and now I feel weak and out of shape. You gave birth 4 months ago, Izuku reminded her gently. Your body did an incredible thing, and it needs time to fully recover. The physical therapist said you are actually ahead of schedule for someone who had your level of physical trauma during delivery. Intellectually, I know that. Emotionally, I just want to be back to normal already. Mirko watched as Hikari continued feeding. And I feel guilty about wanting to get back to hero work when I have this perfect baby who needs me. You're allowed to want both things, Izuku said. Being a mother does not mean you have to give up being a hero. We talked about this, remember? We are going to make it work so you can be both. I know, and I appreciate your support so much. I just did not expect the guilt to feel this heavy. Izuku finished feeding Hikari and began the process of burping her, patting her back gently while supporting her head. What if we establish a clear schedule? You focus on physical therapy and gradually returning to hero work, and I will handle the primary childcare responsibilities for now, since my work is more flexible. Then as you get back to full capacity, we can adjust the balance. You would really be okay with that? Being the primary caregiver? Of course. I love spending time with Hikari, and my teaching schedule is only a few days a week. I can do most of my consulting work from home or during her naps. Izuku smiled as Hikari let out a small burp. Besides, this way she will have at least one parent who is not constantly covered in bruises and scrapes from fighting villains. Fair point, Mirko conceded with a slight smile. Okay, let us try that arrangement and see how it works. Over the following weeks, they settled into their new routine. Mirko threw herself into physical therapy with the same intensity she brought to everything else, determined to regain her pre-pregnancy strength and conditioning as quickly as possible. Izuku managed a household, cared for Hikari, and gradually returned to his teaching responsibilities at UA. His first day back at UA was bittersweet. He had missed teaching and interacting with students, but he also felt the pang of being away from Hikari for extended periods. He had arranged for a trusted childcare provider to watch her during his teaching hours, a retired hero named Recovery Girl's assistant who specialized in caring for hero families' children. "Welcome back, Midoriya," Aizawa greeted him in the faculty lounge before classes began. "How's fatherhood treating you?" "It is incredible and exhausting in equal measure," Izuku replied honestly. "I have a new appreciation for parents who manage careers and childcare simultaneously. It only gets more complicated as they get older," Aizawa said with a voice of experience. "Wait until she starts walking and talking and having opinions about everything." "I am both looking forward to and dreading that phase," Izuku admitted. His students were excited to have him back, many asking about the baby and wanting to see photos. Izuku had brought several pictures on his phone, and he found himself showing them off with the pride of a new father, slightly embarrassed by his own enthusiasm, but unable to help himself. The curriculum he had developed over the previous year had continued in his absence with substitute teachers, but now he was able to return to his carefully planned lessons on strategic analysis and tactical thinking. His first class back was with the second-year students, and he jumped into a complex case study about a multi-villain coordinated attack. "What I want you to focus on today," he explained, pulling up footage of the incident on the classroom screen, "is not just the individual villain quirks, but how they work together to create challenges that were greater than the sum of their parts. Strategic analysis is not just about understanding individual elements, it is about seeing patterns and connections." The students engaged enthusiastically with the material, and Izuku felt the familiar satisfaction of teaching, of helping young heroes develop the analytical skills that would make them more effective and safe in their future careers. This was important work, complementary to but different from his consulting with the Hero Commission. After classes ended, he rushed to pick up Hikari from the childcare provider. The moment he walked in and she saw him, Hikari's face lit up with recognition, and she made excited sounds, her little arms reaching for him. That reaction alone made the separation worth it, knowing that she knew him and was happy to see him. "Did she do okay today?" he asked the provider while gathering Hikari's things. "She was perfect," the woman assured him. "Fed well, napped on schedule, and was generally content. You have a very easy baby, Midoriya. You're lucky." "We really are," Izuku agreed, settling Hikari into her carrier. At home, he found Mirko already back from her physical therapy session, looking exhausted but satisfied. She was in workout clothes, her white hair pulled back in a ponytail, stretching on the living room floor. "How was therapy?" Izuku asked, setting down the baby carrier and freeing Hikari. "Brutal but productive," Mirko replied. "The therapist says I am making excellent progress. I might be cleared for light patrol work in another month if I keep up this pace." "That is great news," Izuku said, bringing Hikari over to her mother. "Someone wants to say hello." Mirko's face softened immediately as she saw her daughter. "Hey, baby girl. Did you have a good day without mommy?" Hikari made happy sounds in response, and Mirko carefully picked her up, holding her close despite her sore muscles. "I missed you today," she admitted softly. "Is that weird? I was only gone for a few hours, but I kept thinking about her." "That is not weird at all. That is being a parent," Izuku assured her. "I thought about her constantly during my classes today." "We are completely wrapped around this tiny person's finger," Mirko observed with amusement. "Completely and utterly," Izuku agreed. That evening, after Hikari had been fed, bathed, and put to bed, Izuku and Mirko finally had time to themselves. They sat together on the couch, both exhausted but content, discussing their respective days and making plans for the upcoming week. "I got a call from the Hero Commission today," Izuku mentioned. "They have a complex case they want me to consult on, a villain organization operating across multiple cities with what appears to be coordinated strategy. Are you going to take it?" "I think so. It sounds challenging and important. I can do most of the analysis work from home during Hikari's naps, and they are not asking for on-site presence, just remote consultation." "You love this work," Mirko observed. "I can see it in your eyes when you talk about it." "I do," Izuku admitted. "Teaching is rewarding, but this kind of strategic analysis, working on active cases that directly impact hero operations, it feels vital. Like I am making a real difference." "You are making a real difference," Mirko corrected. "Your analysis has helped catch dozens of villains and prevented numerous attacks. That is heroic work, even if you are not wearing a costume." It was their familiar argument, one they had been having for years, but it had evolved from Izuku's self-deprecation to a more playful acknowledgement of his value. He no longer truly doubted his contributions, though he still sometimes struggled with imposter syndrome. The following week settled into a productive rhythm. Izuku balanced teaching, consulting, and primary childcare with increasing confidence. Mirko made steady progress in her physical therapy and began taking on limited hero work, desk duty and coordination, rather than active patrol, but it was a start. Hikari continued to develop rapidly, hitting milestones that filled both parents with pride and wonder. At 5 months, she could sit up with support and had started showing interest in solid foods. At 6 months, she was sitting independently and had developed a laugh that made both Izuku and Mirko melt every time they heard it. One Saturday morning, they were in the garden together, Hikari in a portable play area where she could safely explore her surroundings, while her parents tended to the plants and koi pond. It was a peaceful domestic scene, far removed from the intensity of hero work and villain analysis. "I have been thinking," Mirko said as she pruned one of the cherry blossom trees, "about Hikari's future. Specifically about quirk development. She is still young for that," Izuku observed. "Most quirks do not manifest until age 4 or 5. "I know, but I have been reading about early quirk indicators, and I am not seeing any signs yet." Mirko paused in her work. "What if she is quirkless, like you were? Then she will be quirkless, and we will love and support her exactly the same as we would if she had a quirk," Izuku said firmly. "We have already discussed this." "I know, and I mean it. I would never treat her differently based on having or not having a quirk." Mirko set down her pruning shears. "I am just thinking about what that would mean for her life, the challenges she would face. I do not want her to go through what you went through. If she is quirkless, she will have something I did not have," Izuku pointed out. "Two parents who understand that quirks do not define a person's worth or potential. She will grow up knowing that being quirkless is just a different way of being, not a deficiency." "You're right," Mirko agreed. "And honestly, quirk or no quirk, I just want her to be happy and healthy and confident in who she is." "That is all any good parent wants," Izuku said, moving to check on Hikari who was contentedly playing with a soft toy. The conversation stayed with both of them over the following days. They had discussed the possibility of Hikari being quirkless many times, but as she grew older and the typical age for quirk manifestation approached, it became more real and immediate. Izuku found himself reflecting on his own childhood, remembering the pain of being different, of being told he could not achieve his dreams because he lacked a quirk. He was determined that Hikari would never feel that way, would never internalize the toxic belief that quirkless people were somehow less valuable. One evening, while putting Hikari to bed, he talked to her softly as he had taken to doing. "You are perfect exactly as you are," he told her, smoothing her green hair gently. "Whether you have a quirk or not, whether you want to be a hero or a teacher or an artist or anything else, your dad is going to support you. You are loved unconditionally, Hikari. Never forget that." Hikari gazed up at him with her distinctive amber eyes, not understanding the words, but seeming to sense the love and commitment behind them. She made a small contented sound before her eyes began to droop with sleep. Mirko appeared in the doorway, watching the scene with a soft expression. "You are going to be such a good father to her," she said quietly. "You already are." "I am trying," Izuku replied, carefully placing Hikari in her crib. "I just want her to have everything I did not, all the support and acceptance and unconditional love." "She has that," Mirko assured him. "She has 2 parents who adore her and would do anything for her. That is more than a lot of kids get." As Hikari approached 7 months old, Mirko was finally cleared to return to active patrol work, though with some restrictions on the types of cases she could take. Her first day back on full duty was emotionally complex, excitement at returning to the work she loved mixed with guilt about being away from Hikari for extended periods. "I feel like I am abandoning her," she confessed to Izuku the night before her first patrol. "Like I am choosing hero work over being a mother." "You are not choosing one over the other," Izuku said firmly. "You are being both a hero and a mother. Those things do not have to be mutually exclusive." "But what if she needs me and I am not here?" "Then I will be here, or the childcare provider will be here, and we will take care of her until you can get home." Izuku took Mirko's hands. "Hikari is going to grow up seeing her mother as a hero who protects people, who is strong and capable and dedicated to making the world safer. That is a powerful example to set." "You really think so?" "I know so. And when she is older and understands what you do, she is going to be so proud that her mom is a hero." Mirko's first patrol back was uneventful but meaningful. She stopped a convenience store robbery with minimal force, helped evacuate a building with a gas leak, and spent time interacting with civilians who were excited to see her back in action. When she came home that evening, she was energized in a way Izuku had not seen since before the pregnancy. "It felt amazing to be back out there," she told him enthusiastically while he prepared dinner. "I forgot how much I love this work, how good it feels to directly help people." "I am glad," Izuku said sincerely. "You are meant to be a hero, Rumi. It is part of who you are." "How was Hikari today?" "Perfect as always. She is starting to try to crawl, did a lot of rocking back and forth on her hands and knees. I think she will be mobile soon." "Already?" Mirko's eyes widened. "We need to baby-proof everything." "I have been researching that actually," Izuku admitted. "I made a list of safety measures we need to implement before she starts crawling for real." "Of course you did," Mirko said with fond amusement. "My analytical husband always thinking ahead." Over the following weeks, they worked together to baby-proof the house, installing safety gates, securing furniture to walls, covering electrical outlets, and removing any potential hazards from Hikari's reach. The process was tedious but necessary, and they both felt better knowing their home was as safe as possible for their increasingly mobile daughter. True to Izuku's prediction, Hikari began crawling just after her 7-month mark. The first time she successfully propelled herself forward to reach a toy, both parents cheered enthusiastically, celebrating this new milestone. Of course, mobility also meant constant vigilance to ensure she did not get into anything dangerous, but they adapted to this new phase of parenting. Izuku's consulting work with the Hero Commission had intensified around this time. The complex villain organization he had been analyzing for months had revealed itself to be even more sophisticated than initially believed, with connections to multiple criminal enterprises across Japan. His analysis had been instrumental in identifying key members and predicting their operational patterns. One evening, he received an urgent call from the commission requesting an in-person meeting the next day to discuss a major coordinated operation they were planning based on his intelligence. It would be his first time leaving Hikari for a full workday since returning from parental leave, and he felt conflicted about it. "This is important," Mirko said when he expressed his concerns. "You need to be there to provide guidance for this operation. Hikari will be fine with me for one day." "Are you sure? You have patrol tomorrow." "I will call in and take a personal day. My daughter is more important than one day of patrol work." Mirko smiled. "Besides, I have been wanting more one-on-one time with her. This is perfect." The next morning, Izuku left early for the commission headquarters, feeling strange about being away from Hikari for what would likely be an all-day meeting. But the work was important, potentially crucial to stopping a dangerous criminal organization. The meeting was intense and productive. Izuku presented his comprehensive analysis to a room full of commission officials and hero agency representatives, outlining the organizational structure of the villain network, their likely next targets, and recommended strategies for apprehension. "Your work on this case has been exceptional," the commission president said after his presentation. "We are planning a coordinated operation across 7 cities simultaneously, targeting all known members of the organization. Your intelligence will be the foundation of that operation." "When is the operation scheduled?" Izuku asked. 2 weeks from today. We are using that time to position assets and finalize tactical plans." The president looked at him seriously. "We would like you to be in the command center during the operation, providing real-time analytical support." "I can do that," Izuku agreed, already thinking about logistics and childcare arrangements. The meeting continued for several more hours, diving into specific details and contingency planning. By the time Izuku was able to leave, it was late afternoon. He called Mirko to check in. "How's everything at home?" "Perfect," Mirko assured him. "Hikari and I have had a wonderful day. We went for a walk in the garden, played with her toys, and she has been an absolute angel. Do not rush home, we are fine. I am on my way now anyway." The meeting is over. When he arrived home, he found Mirko and Hikari on the living room floor, surrounded by toys. Hikari was practicing her crawling, moving from toy to toy with increasing confidence, while Mirko watched proudly. "Look at her go," Mirko said as Izuku entered. "She has been at this for the past hour, just crawling around and exploring everything." "She is getting so fast," Izuku observed, sitting on the floor with them. "Soon she will be into everything." "I know, and I am both excited and terrified," Mirko admitted. "Our baby is growing up." That evening, after Hikari was asleep, Izuku told Mirko about the planned operation and his role in it. She listened carefully, her expression serious. "This is big," she observed. "Taking down an entire criminal network across multiple cities." "It is. If it is successful, we will have removed a significant threat and potentially prevented numerous crimes." "Are you nervous?" "A little," Izuku admitted. "A lot depends on the accuracy of my analysis. If I am wrong about their locations or operational patterns, the whole operation could fail." "You have never been wrong before," Mirko pointed out. "Your track record speaks for itself. There is always a first time, and the stakes are high on this one." Mirko moved closer to him on the couch, taking his hand. "You are brilliant at what you do, Izuku. The commission would not be planning this operation if they did not have complete confidence in your analysis. Trust yourself the way everyone else trusts you." "Thank you. I needed to hear that." The 2 weeks before the operation passed quickly. Izuku continued his regular teaching and childcare responsibilities while also preparing extensively for the command center work. He reviewed all his analysis multiple times, double-checking every conclusion and recommendation, wanting to be absolutely certain of his intelligence. Mirko had fully returned to active hero work, taking on increasingly challenging assignments as her strength and confidence returned to pre-pregnancy levels. She was loving being back in action, though she made sure to balance it with family time and never missed putting Hikari to bed when she was home. One evening, about a week before the operation, they hosted a small dinner party for close friends and family. Hawks, Ryukyu, Endeavor, and Inko all came to visit and see how much Hikari had grown. The baby was the center of attention, crawling around and charming everyone with her bright personality. She is going to be a heartbreaker, Hawks declared, making silly faces that made Hikari laugh. Just like her parents. Please do not encourage her to be a heartbreaker, Izuku protested. I am not ready to think about her dating yet. She is 7 months old, you have time, Ryukyu assured him with amusement. Not enough time, Mirko muttered, watching Hikari with protective eyes. Endeavor, surprisingly, offered some thoughtful parenting advice based on his own experience raising 4 children. The most important thing is to let them develop their own identity, he said seriously. I made mistakes trying to mold my children into what I wanted them to be, instead of supporting who they actually were. Do not make the same error. We appreciate that wisdom, Izuku said sincerely. We are committed to letting Hikari find her own path, whatever that might be. That is all any child really needs, Endeavor replied. Support and unconditional love. After the guests left and Hikari was asleep, Izuku and Mirko cleaned up together, working in comfortable synchronization that came from months of shared domestic life. That went well, Mirko observed, washing dishes while Izuku dried and put them away. Everyone was so good with Hikari. She brings out the best in people, Izuku agreed. Even Endeavor was smiling and relaxed, which I have rarely seen. Parenthood changes you. Makes you softer in some ways, more aware of what really matters. Do you feel changed? Completely, Mirko said without hesitation. Before Hikari, I was so focused on hero rankings and being the strongest and proving myself constantly. Now, I still care about those things, but they are not the most important things anymore. She is. I feel the same way, Izuku admitted. My career and work are still meaningful to me, but they are secondary to making sure our daughter is loved and supported and has everything she needs to thrive. We are becoming proper adults, Mirko joked. Responsible parents with priorities and everything. Terrifying, is not it? Absolutely terrifying, Mirko agreed. And also wonderful. The day of the coordinated operation arrived with perfect weather, clear skies that seemed at odds with the seriousness of what was about to unfold. Izuku arrived at the Commission Command Center early, wanting to be fully prepared before operations began. The command center was impressive, a high-tech facility with multiple screens, showing live feeds from all 7 cities where the operation would take place. Dozens of commission officials and support staff worked at various stations, coordinating the complex multi-city effort. Midoriya, welcome, the commission president greeted him. Your station is set up over here with access to all the intelligence feeds and direct communication to field commanders. Izuku settled into his assigned position, reviewing the operation plans one final time. Based on his analysis, hero teams would simultaneously raid suspected villain locations across Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, Nagoya, Sapporo, Fukuoka, and Hiroshima. The timing was critical. If one team moved too early, it could alert the other locations and allow villains to escape. All teams report ready, a coordinator announced. The commission president looked at Izuku. Any last-minute insights or concerns? The analysis is solid, Izuku confirmed, pushing down his nervousness. The predicted locations and timing windows are based on consistent patterns over months of observation. I am confident in the intelligence. Then let us proceed. The president gave the order. All teams, execute on my mark. 3, 2, 1, go. Across all 7 cities, hero teams moved simultaneously. Izuku watched multiple screens at once, his analytical mind tracking each operation, looking for anything unexpected or concerning. His heart pounded as he saw heroes breaching locations, encountering resistance from villains, engaging in combat. The operation unfolded with remarkable precision. Each predicted location contained exactly what Izuku's analysis had suggested: villain operations, stolen goods, evidence of criminal activity. The heroes, prepared by detailed intelligence about expected quirks and tactics, handled resistance effectively. Team 7 has secured the Fukuoka location, a coordinator reported. Multiple suspects in custody, no hero injuries. Similar reports came in from other cities over the next hour. Team after team successfully completed their missions, apprehending villains and securing evidence. Izuku felt the tension in his shoulders gradually ease as it became clear that his analysis had been accurate. Final report, the commission president called out 90 minutes after operations began. All 7 locations secured. 43 villains in custody across all cities. Extensive evidence recovered. 3 minor hero injuries, all non-critical. The coordinator paused. This is the single most successful coordinated operation in commission history. The command center erupted in applause and congratulations. The commission president approached Izuku directly, extending her hand. Exceptional work, Midoriya. Your intelligence was flawless. You helped take down an entire criminal network without a single civilian casualty or serious hero injury. That is remarkable. I am just glad everyone is safe, Izuku replied, shaking her hand while feeling overwhelming relief and pride. After the operation concluded and debriefings were complete, Izuku finally left the command center in the early evening. He was exhausted but energized, feeling the profound satisfaction of work done well with meaningful impact. At home, he found Mirko playing with Hikari on the living room floor, building block towers for the baby to knock down. Mirko looked up as he entered, reading his expression immediately. Successful operation. Complete success, Izuku confirmed. Every location secured, all major members of the organization apprehended, minimal injuries. Mirko jumped up and pulled him into an enthusiastic hug. I am so proud of you. You did that, you made that happen. The heroes did the actual work, Izuku protested, but his smile showed his pride. The heroes had perfect intelligence because of you, Mirko countered. You are a hero in your own right, Izuku. Accepted. Hikari made demanding sounds from the floor, clearly wanting her father's attention. Izuku scooped her up, holding her close and breathing in that unique baby scent that always calmed him. Did you have a good day with mommy? He asked her softly. Hikari babbled in response, her small hands patting his face. That evening, they celebrated quietly at home with Hikari, the three of them together as a family. It was perfect and peaceful, a reminder of what truly mattered beyond professional accomplishments and hero work. As they put Hikari to bed together that night, both parents standing over her crib watching her sleep, Izuku felt a profound sense of contentment and gratitude. His life had become everything he never knew he wanted, a meaningful career using his analytical skills to protect people, a loving partnership with an incredible woman, and now a beautiful daughter who filled every day with joy and purpose. You know what I realized today? He said softly to Mirko as they watched Hikari sleep. What is that? That I am exactly where I am supposed to be. Everything in my life, all the challenges and changes and unexpected turns, they all led me here. To you, to Hikari, to this life we have built together. Mirko leaned her head on his shoulder. I feel the same way. Every fight I had to win, every obstacle I had to overcome to prove myself as a hero, it was all worth it because it brought me to you and to this. They stood in peaceful silence, watching their daughter breathe softly in sleep, both feeling the weight and wonder of parenthood, the responsibility and the joy of raising this small person who depended on them completely. Life would continue to bring challenges, Izuku knew. Hikari would grow and develop, presenting new parenting obstacles at every stage. His career would evolve, bringing new cases and new responsibilities. Mirko's hero work would continue to involve danger and risk. But they would face it all together, as they always had, united by love and commitment and the shared purpose of creating the best possible life for themselves and their daughter. As they finally left the nursery and headed to their own bed, both exhausted from the long day, Izuku felt an overwhelming sense of peace. This was his family, his life, his purpose. And he would protect it and nurture it with everything he had, for as long as he lived. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new adventures. Hikari would continue growing and changing, developing into her own unique person. His work would present new complex cases requiring his analytical skills. Mirko would face new villains and new dangers in her hero work. But tonight, in this moment, everything was exactly as it should be. They climbed into bed together, Mirko curling against Izuku's side the way she always did, and he wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. I love you, he whispered into the darkness. I love you too, Mirko replied. You, me, and Hikari. Our perfect little family. Perfect, Izuku agreed, and as he drifted off to sleep, he knew with absolute certainty that he meant it. Their life together was not without challenges or difficulties, but it was perfect in all the ways that truly mattered. They had love, they had purpose, they had each other, and they had their daughter. What more could anyone possibly need? The winter snow fell gently outside the windows of their home as Izuku sat at his desk in the home office, reviewing case files while simultaneously keeping an eye on the baby monitor. Hikari was napping in her crib, now 10 months old and rapidly approaching her first birthday. The past few months had been transformative, watching their daughter develop from a crawling infant into a tiny person with increasingly apparent personality traits and preferences. She had her mother's determination and fearlessness, constantly trying to pull herself up on furniture and attempt walking despite numerous stumbles. She had what Izuku suspected was his analytical nature, spending long periods studying objects with intense focus, turning toys over in her hands to examine them from every angle. Her verbal skills were developing rapidly, with mama and dada now clearly distinguishable, along with approximations of several other words. The intercom buzzed, indicating someone at the front gate. Izuku checked the security camera to see Hawk standing outside, bundled against the cold, but still managing to look effortlessly stylish. He pressed a button to open the gate and went to greet his friend at the door. Hawks, this is unexpected. What brings you by? Izuku asked as he let the winged hero inside. And a guy visit his friends without an agenda. Hawks replied with his characteristic grin, shaking snow from his jacket. Though I'll admit, I did have something specific I wanted to discuss with you. They settled in the living room with tea, and Hawks pulled out a tablet. The Hero Public Safety Commission is planning something big, and they specifically requested that I bring this proposal to you personally. What kind of proposal? Izuku asked, his interest piqued. They want to create a new position, a director of strategic intelligence. Basically, they want to formalize and expand what you've been doing as a consultant into a full-time leadership role. Hawks pulled up documents on the tablet. You would oversee all intelligence analysis for major hero operations, coordinate information sharing between agencies, develop training programs for the next generation of strategic analysts, and directly advise the commission on national security matters related to villain activity. Izuku felt his heart rate increase. This was massive, far beyond anything he had anticipated. That's an incredible opportunity. But it would also be a huge commitment. What about my teaching at UA? The commission has already discussed this with UA's administration. They're supportive of you taking the position while maintaining a reduced teaching load, maybe 1 or 2 classes instead of your current 4. Hawks leaned forward. This is a chance to really shape how the entire hero community approaches strategic thinking, Izuku. You wouldn't just be consulting on individual cases anymore, you'd be building the infrastructure for how heroes operate at the highest levels. Then I think about it. This is the kind of decision I need to discuss with Rumi. Of course. The commission isn't looking for an immediate answer. Hawk smiled. But between you and me, you'd be perfect for this role. You've already proven yourself time and again. This would just make it official and give you the resources and authority to do even more. After Hawks left, Izuku sat in his office, staring at the proposal documents on the tablet. This was everything he had never dared to dream of when he was a quirkless kid being told he could never contribute to the hero world. Not just contributing, but leading, shaping strategy at the highest levels. But it would also mean significant changes to their family life. More responsibilities, longer hours, increased pressure and scrutiny. Was he ready for that? Was their family ready for that? The baby monitor crackled with sounds of Hikari waking from her nap. Izuku went to her nursery, finding her standing in her crib, holding onto the rails and bouncing excitedly when she saw him. "Hey, sweetheart," he said softly, lifting her out. "Did you have a good nap?" "Ada." Hikari responded enthusiastically, patting his face with her small hands. He changed her diaper and brought her downstairs, settling her in her play area with various toys, while he started preparing ingredients for dinner. Mirko would be home from patrol soon, and they had developed a routine where he cooked while she played with Hikari, both of them decompressing from their respective days. Mirko arrived home at her usual time, bursting through the door with her characteristic energy, despite a long day of hero work. "I'm home," she announced. "Where's my baby girl?" Hikari squealed with delight at hearing her mother's voice, crawling rapidly toward Mirko, who scooped her up and spun her around, making the baby laugh with pure joy. "How was patrol?" Izuku asked from the kitchen. "Good, actually. Stopped 3 attempted robberies, helped with a car accident, and spent time at a community center talking to kids about hero safety." Mirko settled on the couch with Hikari in her lap. "How was your day?" "Interesting." Hawks came by with a proposal from the commission. Izuku explained the director of strategic intelligence position while he cooked, watching Mirko's expression carefully. When he finished, Mirko was quiet for a long moment, processing the information. "That's huge, Izuku. Like, career-defining huge." "I know. And I wanted to discuss it with you before even considering it seriously." "What do you want to do?" Mirko asked, the same question she always asked when he faced major decisions. "Part of me is incredibly excited. This would be a chance to really make a difference on a national scale, to build something lasting that would help heroes for years to come." Izuku paused in his cooking. "But part of me is worried about what it would mean for our family. More time away from home, more pressure, less flexibility." Mirko stood and walked to the kitchen, Hikari still in her arms. "Let me tell you what I see. I see a brilliant man who has already proven he can balance important career responsibilities with being an amazing husband and father. I see someone who would be perfect for this role, who would use the position to genuinely improve hero society, rather than just accumulating power. But what about you? About us? About Hikari? We'll make it work, the same way we always have." Mirko shifted Hikari to one arm and used her free hand to cup Izuku's face. "I'm not going to lie and say it won't require adjustments. But this is your dream job, even if you didn't know it until now. You deserve this opportunity, and I'm going to support you taking it." "You're sure?" "Completely sure. Besides, Hikari needs to see both her parents pursuing their passions and doing meaningful work. That's an important example to set." They talked more over dinner, discussing practical considerations like childcare arrangements, how they would manage their schedules, and what boundaries Izuku would need to set with the commission to protect family time. By the end of the evening, they had a plan that felt workable and exciting rather than overwhelming. The next morning, Izuku called the commission to accept the position. The official start date was set for 6 weeks out, giving him time to wrap up his current consulting projects and prepare for the transition. The weeks that followed were busy with preparations. Izuku finished his semester at UA, though he would continue teaching 2 classes in the spring semester. He worked closely with the commission to understand the full scope of his new role and begin assembling the team he would lead. He also spent significant time with Hikari, knowing that his schedule would become more demanding once the new position officially began. Hikari, meanwhile, reached several exciting milestones. At 11 months, she took her first unassisted steps, wobbling across the living room from Mirko to Izuku, while both parents cheered enthusiastically. Her vocabulary expanded to include approximations of several new words, and her personality became increasingly apparent, curious, determined, and surprisingly funny for someone so young. "She's going to be a handful," Mirko observed one evening after Hikari had spent 20 minutes trying to climb onto the couch despite being repeatedly redirected. "That persistence is pure stubbornness. I wonder where she gets that from," Izuku teased, earning a playful swat from Mirko. As Hikari's first birthday approached, they planned a small celebration. Inko would come to visit, along with their closest friends from the hero community. It would be intimate rather than elaborate, focused on family and the people who had been part of Hikari's first year. The party was held on a sunny Saturday afternoon. Their home was decorated with simple colorful decorations, and Inko had baked an elaborate cake shaped like a rabbit, a nod to Mirko's hero identity. Hikari, dressed in an adorable outfit that Mirko's mother had sent, was initially overwhelmed by all the attention, but eventually warmed up and enjoyed being the center of everyone's affection. "She's grown so much," Ryukyu observed, watching Hikari toddle around the room with increasing confidence. "It feels like just yesterday you were telling us you were pregnant." "Time moves differently when you're a parent," Izuku agreed. "Some days feel endless, but the months fly by." Ox had brought an elaborate gift, a custom-made mobile with tiny hero figures that actually moved and posed when activated. "For the future hero's room," he declared. "Or future strategic analyst, or future whatever she wants to be." Endeavor's gift was more practical but thoughtful, a substantial contribution to Hikari's college fund, along with a handwritten note expressing his hopes that she would be supported in pursuing whatever path she chose. It was surprisingly sentimental coming from the normally stoic hero. As the party wound down and guests departed, Izuku and Mirko sat with Hikari between them on the couch, looking at photos from the day. Their daughter was exhausted from all the excitement, leaning against Izuku and fighting sleep. "1 year," Mirko said softly. "We've been parents for a whole year." "Best year of my life," Izuku replied. "Even with the sleep deprivation and the constant worry and all the challenges." "Mine too," Mirko agreed. "She's made everything better, given everything more meaning and purpose." Hikari finally lost her battle with sleep, her head dropping onto Izuku's chest as she drifted off. They carried her to her crib together, both standing over her and watching her sleep as they had done countless times before. "Ready for year 2 of Parenthood?" Mirko asked. "As ready as I'll ever be," Izuku replied, taking her hand. The following week, Izuku officially started his new position as Director of Strategic Intelligence for the Hero Public Safety Commission. His first day was overwhelming, meeting with dozens of people across various departments, reviewing ongoing cases and operations, and beginning to understand the full scope of his responsibilities. His office was impressive, spacious with large windows overlooking Tokyo, equipped with state-of-the-art technology for analysis and communication. He had a small team of analysts reporting directly to him, all talented individuals who had been carefully selected for their skills and dedication. "Welcome," Director Midoriya, his assistant, an efficient woman named Tanaka, greeted him. "I've prepared briefings on all active intelligence operations and scheduled your initial meetings with department heads." The title still felt strange to Izuku. Director Midoriya. He had gone from a quirkless kid who thought he could never contribute to the hero world to directing strategic intelligence for the entire nation's hero operations. The journey felt surreal. His first major challenge came within days of starting. A coordinated villain attack occurred in Osaka, more sophisticated than typical criminal activity, suggesting a new organization or a remnant of previously dismantled groups reorganizing. The commission immediately looked to Izuku for analysis and strategic guidance. He threw himself into the work, assembling his team and diving into every detail of the attack. They analyzed the villain quirks used, the timing and targets, the escape methods, looking for patterns and connections that might reveal who was behind it. Working late into the evening, Izuku was so focused that he lost track of time until his phone rang with a call from Mirko. "Hey, are you okay? You were supposed to be home 2 hours ago," she said, concern evident in her voice. Izuku glanced at the clock and felt a pang of guilt. I'm sorry, I got caught up in this case. There was an attack in Osaka and… I understand the work is important, Mirko interrupted gently. But you need to come home, Izuku. Hikari kept asking for you at bedtime, and you need rest too. She was right, of course. This was exactly the kind of workaholic behavior they had discussed avoiding. I'm leaving right now, he promised. At home, he found Mirko in the living room, reviewing her own case files. She looked up as he entered, her expression softening. I'm sorry, he said immediately. I know I said I would maintain boundaries, and I let work consume me on literally my first week. It's understandable. New position, important case, you want to prove yourself. Mirko set aside her files. But you don't have to prove anything, Izuku. You earned this position because you're brilliant at what you do. Don't sacrifice your health and our family time trying to prove something that's already been established. You're right. I got caught up in the urgency of the case and forgot everything else. Did you at least eat dinner? Izuku's guilty expression was answer enough. Mirko sighed but smiled. Come on, I saved you a plate. You can tell me about the case while you eat. Over a late dinner, Izuku briefed Mirko on the Osaka attack and she offered insights from a hero's perspective that he found valuable. This had become one of the strengths of their relationship, the way they could help each other with their respective work while maintaining appropriate boundaries. You should bring in Ryukyu's agency for consultation, Mirko suggested. They operate primarily in Kansai and would have better local intelligence than agencies based in Tokyo. That's a good idea. I'll reach out to them tomorrow. After eating, Izuku quietly entered Hikari's nursery. His daughter was sleeping peacefully, her stuffed rabbit clutched in her arms. He stood watching her for several minutes, feeling guilty about missing bedtime, but also recommitting to the balance he had promised to maintain. The Osaka case progressed over the following weeks. Izuku's team worked efficiently, coordinating with multiple hero agencies and gradually building a comprehensive picture of the new villain organization. They were called the Syndicate, a deliberately vague name that made them harder to track, and they appeared to be recruiting mid-level villains who had previously operated independently. Izuku's analysis revealed their likely organizational structure, recruitment methods, and potential future targets. He presented his findings to the commission leadership and coordinated with hero agencies to develop a response strategy. Excellent work as always, Midoriya, the commission president said after his presentation. Your promotion was well deserved. You've already improved our intelligence operation significantly. Despite the professional success, Izuku was struggling with work-life balance. The demands of his new position were intense, and he found himself working longer hours than he had anticipated. Mirko was patient and supportive, but he could see the strain it was putting on their family. One evening, after missing another bedtime with Hikari, he came home to find Mirko waiting for him with a serious expression. We need to talk, she said, and Izuku's stomach dropped at her tone. They sat on the couch, and Mirko took his hands. I love you, and I'm incredibly proud of what you're accomplishing in your new role. But Izuku, you're burning yourself out. You've missed Hikari's bedtime 5 times this week. You're working through weekends. You barely sleep anymore. I know, I'm sorry. This case is just so complex and… There will always be another case, Mirko interrupted firmly. There will always be another crisis, another villain organization, another urgent situation requiring your expertise. But Hikari is only going to be this age once. I'm only going to be your wife once, right now, in this moment. You can't get this time back. Izuku felt tears forming. You're right. I've let work consume me again despite promising I wouldn't. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. I'm trying to help you see that you need to set harder boundaries. You're Director of Strategic Intelligence, which means you have authority to delegate, to trust your team, to not personally handle every detail of every case. I'm afraid if I delegate too much, if I am not personally overseeing everything, something important will be missed and people will get hurt. That's the burden of leadership, the fear that comes with responsibility. But you hired good people. Trust them to do their jobs while you do yours, which includes being a husband and father. Mirko squeezed his hands. I need you to really hear me on this. If you don't find balance, you're going to burn out completely, and that won't help anyone. Izuku nodded, emotion thick in his throat. I hear you. I'll do better. I'll set clearer boundaries and delegate more. Good. Because I miss my husband and Hikari misses her daddy. The next morning, Izuku called a meeting with his team. I've been operating under the assumption that I need to personally oversee every detail of every case we handle. That's not sustainable, and it's not fair to any of you who are talented analysts in your own right. He spent the next hour restructuring their workflow, establishing clear delegation protocols and decision-making authority for his team members. It was difficult to let go of direct control, but Mirko had been right, he couldn't do everything himself. The change was immediate and positive. His team members stepped up enthusiastically, taking ownership of cases and demonstrating skills that Izuku hadn't fully utilized because he had been micromanaging. The work still got done, often just as well or better, but without requiring Izuku to work 16-hour days. He started coming home at reasonable hours, making it to Hikari's bedtime most nights, having dinner with Mirko, and maintaining the family rituals that had always been important to them. The balance wasn't perfect, there were still occasional late nights or urgent situations, but it was sustainable in a way his previous schedule had not been. Hikari was changing rapidly as she moved past her first birthday into toddlerhood. At 14 months, she was walking confidently and even attempting to run, though this usually resulted in tumbles that she would laugh off before trying again. Her language skills were expanding daily, with new words appearing regularly and the beginnings of simple two-word phrases. "Gotta work," she said one morning, watching Izuku prepare to leave for the office. "Yes, Dada has to go to work," Izuku confirmed, crouching down to her level. "But I'll be home for dinner and we'll play together, okay?" "Play?" Hikari agreed enthusiastically. "She understands so much now," Mirko observed. "It's incredible how quickly they develop at this age." The question of whether Hikari would develop a quirk was becoming more pressing as she approached the typical age for quirk manifestation. Most children showed signs by age 4, but early manifestations at 2 or 3 were not uncommon. Both Izuku and Mirko tried not to obsess over it, but it was hard not to wonder. One afternoon, while Izuku was working from home and watching Hikari play in the living room, something unusual happened. Hikari was focused intently on a toy rabbit, similar to the one Mirko often carried as part of her hero costume. As she stared at it, the toy seemed to twitch slightly, moving without being touched. Izuku blinked, wondering if he had imagined it. But then it happened again, the rabbit's ear flopping as though moved by an invisible force, directly correlating with Hikari's intense stare. "Umi," he called out. "Can you come here?" Mirko appeared from the home gym where she had been training. "What's wrong?" "Watch Hikari. Watch what happens when she focuses on that toy." They both observed as Hikari reached toward the rabbit, her hand about 6 inches away, and the toy moved toward her hand as if drawn by magnetism. "Is that?" Mirko started. "I think she's developing a quirk," Izuku finished, his heart racing with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. They spent the next hour carefully observing Hikari, who seemed unaware that anything unusual was happening. The effect was subtle and inconsistent, but it appeared that she could exert a small amount of force on objects within a short range when she was focused on them. "We should get her checked by a quirk specialist," Mirko suggested. "Make sure this is safe and understand what we're dealing with." The next day, they took Hikari to a pediatric quirk specialist recommended by the commission. Dr. Yamada was experienced and gentle, conducting various tests while keeping Hikari entertained and comfortable. "She's definitely manifesting a quirk," Dr. Yamada confirmed after the examination. "It appears to be a mild telekinetic ability, the capacity to exert force on objects at a short distance. It's quite subtle right now, but it will likely strengthen as she grows and develops more control." "Is it safe? Are there any health concerns we should be aware of?" Izuku asked. "All quirks come with some considerations, but this one appears relatively benign. The main thing is to monitor for headaches or fatigue, which can occur when children overuse developing quirks. Otherwise, just let it develop naturally. She'll learn to control it over time." "Should we do anything to help her develop control?" Mirko asked. "Not at this age. Let her play and explore naturally. Formal quirk training doesn't typically begin until children are older and have better cognitive development. For now, just observe and make sure she's not straining herself." On the drive home, Izuku and Mirko processed this new information. "She has a quirk," Mirko said wonderingly. "Our baby has a quirk." "Part of me is relieved," Izuku admitted. "I didn't want her to face the challenges I faced being quirkless." "A part of you is also disappointed that you won't share that experience with her," Mirko observed perceptively. "Maybe a little," Izuku acknowledged. "Though I'm much more happy than disappointed. She'll have opportunities I never had. She'll also have challenges we need to help her navigate. Having a quirk brings its own pressures and expectations. We'll figure it out together, the way we always do." Over the following weeks, they observed Hikari's developing quirk with fascination. The telekinetic ability was inconsistent, sometimes working strongly and other times not at all, which was normal for a newly manifesting quirk in a toddler. Hikari herself seemed to have minimal awareness that anything unusual was happening, occasionally expressing surprise when toys moved in response to her focus. Meanwhile, the syndicate case that Izuku had been working on reached a critical phase. His analysis had identified the likely location of their main operations base, and a coordinated hero strike was being planned. As Director of Strategic Intelligence, Izuku would be in the command center, providing real-time analytical support. The operation was scheduled for a Saturday, which meant missing a day with his family. Hikari was now old enough to notice when he was gone, and she had developed a routine of weekend mornings spent playing with both parents together. "I'm sorry," he told Mirko when he explained the situation. "I know weekends are supposed to be family time." "This is important work," Mirko replied. "Hikari and I will be fine for one day. Just promise you'll make it up to us." "Absolutely. How about I take next weekend completely off? No work, no cases, just family time." "That sounds perfect." The morning of the operation, Izuku left early while Hikari was still asleep. At the Commission Command Center, he reviewed final preparations with his team and the operational commanders. This was the largest operation he had coordinated since taking his new position, involving dozens of heroes across multiple agencies. "All teams in position," a coordinator reported. Izuku reviewed the tactical displays one final time. Everything was aligned with his analysis, heroes positioned optimally based on predicted villain quirks and likely escape routes. "Execute," he ordered, his voice steady despite his racing heart. The operation unfolded across multiple screens. Hero teams breached the suspected base simultaneously from different entry points, encountering resistance from syndicate members exactly where Izuku's analysis had predicted. The coordination was precise, heroes working together to neutralize threats and secure areas. "North team has encountered heavy resistance," a field commander reported. "They're using a quirk we didn't anticipate, some kind of barrier generation that's slowing our advance." Izuku quickly analyzed the new information. The barrier quirk wasn't in our intelligence, but based on the manifestation pattern, it likely has a cooldown period. Recommend feint attacks to force barrier deployment, then strike during the cooldown window. The North team implemented the strategy successfully, and within minutes, they had broken through the barrier defenses. The operation continued with impressive efficiency, testament to thorough planning and excellent hero execution. 2 hours after it began, the final report came in. All syndicate leadership in custody. Base secured. 27 villains apprehended total. Minor injuries to 3 heroes, none critical. Complete success. The command center erupted in applause and congratulations. The commission president approached Izuku personally. "Outstanding work, Director Midoriya. Your intelligence and real-time tactical support were instrumental to this success. The syndicate has been completely dismantled." Izuku felt profound satisfaction and relief. This was why he did this work, to help heroes operate more safely and effectively, to protect civilians from dangerous villain organizations. The long hours and difficult decisions were worth it for moments like this. He arrived home late that afternoon to find Mirko and Hikari in the garden despite the cold weather, both bundled in warm clothes. Hikari squealed with delight when she saw him, toddling over as fast as her little legs could carry her. Dada home." Izuku scooped her up, holding her close. "I'm home, sweetheart. Did you have fun with mommy today?" "Park. Swings." Hikari reported enthusiastically. "We went to the park this morning," Mirko explained, walking over to join them. "How did the operation go?" "Complete success. The syndicate is finished. I saw the news reports. Congratulations." Mirko kissed him. "You're making a real difference, Izuku." That evening, after Hikari was asleep, Izuku and Mirko sat together in the living room, reflecting on how far they had come and how much their lives had changed. "Do you ever think about what your life would be like if you hadn't hired me?" Izuku asked. "Sometimes," Mirko admitted. "I'd probably still be living in that penthouse, eating protein shakes for every meal, coming home alone to an empty apartment. I'd be a good hero, but my personal life would be empty. And I'd probably still be in that tiny apartment, working part-time at a merchandise store, taking online classes, and wondering if I'd ever find a way to contribute to the hero world meaningfully." "We found each other at exactly the right time," Mirko said. "When we both needed what the other could offer. And now we have Hikari, and these careers we love, and this life we've built together. It's pretty amazing when you think about it." As winter progressed towards spring, their family continued to grow and develop. Hikari's language skills exploded, moving from simple words to complex sentences seemingly overnight. Her quirk continued to develop, the telekinetic ability becoming slightly more controlled and predictable, though still operating at a toddler's level of mastery. Izuku continued to excel in his role as Director of Strategic Intelligence, leading successful operations while maintaining better work-life balance than he had initially achieved. He was learning to delegate effectively, trust his team, and recognize that he didn't have to personally solve every problem to be an effective leader. Mirko was thriving in her hero work, having fully returned to her pre-pregnancy strength and effectiveness. Her ranking had stabilized at number 7 nationally, and she was widely respected among hero communities for her skill and dedication. Their family life had found a sustainable rhythm, balancing 2 demanding careers with the needs of a toddler and their relationship with each other. It wasn't always easy, there were still difficult days and challenging moments, but they faced everything together. One evening, as they prepared dinner together while Hikari played nearby, Mirko brought up something she had been thinking about. "How would you feel about having another baby?" she asked casually while chopping vegetables. Izuku nearly dropped the pot he was holding. "Another baby? Really? Not right now necessarily, but maybe in a year or two. I've been thinking that I don't want Hikari to be an only child. Having siblings teaches important things about sharing and relationship building." "I've thought about it too," Izuku admitted. "I always imagined having more than one child. But I wanted to make sure you were okay with the idea after how difficult the pregnancy was." "It was difficult, but it was also worth it. And now I know what to expect, which might make it easier." Mirko paused in her chopping. "Plus, Hikari would be an amazing big sister." "She really would," Izuku agreed, watching their daughter play contentedly with her toys. "Okay, let's plan for it. Maybe in a year and a half or 2 years, once Hikari is a bit older and more independent." "That sounds perfect." The conversation marked another milestone in their journey together, another step in building the family and life they both wanted. They had come so far from that first interview, from employer and employee to partners and spouses to parents planning their growing family. As Izuku finished preparing dinner and called everyone to the table, he looked at Mirko and Hikari, his wife and daughter, his family, and felt overwhelming gratitude for the unexpected path his life had taken. Every challenge, every obstacle, every moment of doubt had been worth it to arrive at this place, surrounded by love and purpose, and the knowledge that he was exactly where he was meant to be. The future stretched ahead with infinite possibilities, more children, new professional challenges, watching Hikari grow and develop, continuing to build a life of meaning and contribution. But for now, in this moment, sitting down to dinner with his family, everything was perfect. And that was more than enough. The cherry blossoms were in full bloom, their delicate pink petals drifting through the garden like snow as Izuku sat on the ingawa, the traditional wooden porch that overlooked their carefully maintained landscape. Hikari, now nearly 2 years old, was toddling around the garden with surprising coordination, occasionally stopping to examine a flower or watch the koi swimming lazily in the pond. Her green hair caught the afternoon sunlight, and Izuku found himself mesmerized by how much she had grown. "Dada, look. Fish." Hikari called out, pointing excitedly at the pond. "I see them, sweetheart. Be careful not to get too close to the edge," Izuku called back, always conscious of potential dangers even in their own secure garden. It was a rare afternoon off for both him and Mirko, a conscious decision they had made to protect at least one day per week for family time, regardless of work demands. The commission had initially been resistant to this boundary, but Izuku had held firm, and his consistent excellent performance had given him the leverage to maintain his position. Mirko emerged from the house carrying a tray with tea and snacks. She had been grocery shopping earlier and preparing ingredients for the week ahead, another domestic routine they had established to maximize their limited free time together. "She's getting so independent," Mirko observed, setting down the tray and settling beside Izuku. "Remember when she couldn't even crawl? Now she's running around giving us orders." "She definitely inherited your confidence and assertiveness," Izuku said with a smile. "Yesterday she told the childcare provider that she wanted to organize the toys better because the current system was not optimal." Mirko laughed. "Okay, that's pure you. My daughter the toddler analyst." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching Hikari explore. Her quirk had continued to develop, the telekinetic ability becoming more pronounced. She could now move small objects with relative ease when she focused, though her control was still imperfect and sometimes resulted in unintended consequences. Just last week, she had gotten frustrated trying to reach a toy on a high shelf and had unconsciously pulled the entire shelf's contents toward her, resulting in a cascade of toys and books. Neither Izuku nor Mirko had been upset, they both understood that quirk control required practice and maturity, but they had begun implementing gentle guidance about being careful with her ability. "We should probably start thinking about quirk counseling," Mirko said, echoing Izuku's thoughts. "The pediatrician mentioned that early guidance can help children develop better control and understanding of their quirks." "I've been researching programs," Izuku replied. "There's a highly regarded one associated with UA that focuses on young children. They use play-based methods to help kids explore their quirks safely while building control." "That sounds perfect. Can you set up an assessment?" "Already done. We have an appointment next month." Mirko leaned her head on his shoulder. "You're always 3 steps ahead, aren't you?" "It's what I do best," Izuku said, wrapping an arm around her. Hikari came running back to them, her small face serious. "Dada, mama, I make flower move." She pointed at a cherry blossom petal floating in the air near her hand, clearly being held aloft by her quirk. "That's wonderful, Hikari," Izuku praised. "You're getting very good at controlling your quirk." "Good girl," Mirko added. "But remember what we talked about. Only use your quirk when mama or dada are watching, okay?" "Okay, mama," Hikari agreed, letting the petal drift to the ground before climbing into Izuku's lap. These moments of peace were precious, Izuku thought as he held his daughter close. His professional life had become increasingly demanding as the scope of his responsibilities grew, but he was learning to compartmentalize, to be fully present when he was home, rather than constantly thinking about cases and strategies. The following Monday brought a new challenge that would test that balance. Izuku arrived at his office to find an urgent summons from the commission president. When he entered her office, her expression was grave. "Midoriya, we have a situation that requires your immediate and complete attention," she began without preamble. "We've received intelligence suggesting that a major villain organization is planning something unprecedented. Multiple international villain groups appear to be coordinating, possibly for a simultaneous multi-country attack." Izuku felt his analytical mind immediately engage, processing the implications. International coordination is extremely rare among villain organizations. They typically compete rather than cooperate. Exactly, which is why we're taking this threat very seriously. We need you to lead a joint task force with international hero agencies to analyze the threat and develop a coordinated response strategy. The president slid a folder across her desk. "This is everything we have so far. It's not much, which is why we need your analytical expertise." Izuku opened the folder, scanning the intelligence reports. The information was fragmentary but concerning: intercepted communication suggesting a large-scale operation, unusual movement of known international villains, and suspicious activity at several key infrastructure sites across multiple countries. "This is going to require significant time and resources," he observed. "How much authority do I have to coordinate with international agencies?" "Whatever you need. The Commission has already reached out to our counterparts in the United States, France, Japan, and South Korea. They're expecting your contact and prepared to share intelligence. I'll need to assemble a specialized team, bring in additional analysts with international expertise." "Done. I've already approved budget for temporary staff expansion. This is your top priority, Midoriya. Everything else gets delegated or postponed." Back in his office, Izuku immediately began organizing his approach. This was unlike any case he had handled before. The scope was massive and the stakes potentially catastrophic. International villain coordination suggested something big, possibly an attack designed to overwhelm hero response capabilities simultaneously across multiple countries. He called a meeting with his core team, bringing them up to speed on the situation and beginning to divide responsibilities. His assistant, Tanaka, would handle coordination with international agencies. His senior analyst, Kobayashi, would focus on pattern analysis across the fragmentary intelligence. He would personally lead the overall strategic assessment and threat modeling. The work consumed him quickly. Days blended together as he dove into intelligence from multiple countries, looking for connections and patterns. He worked closely with hero agencies around the world, conducting video conferences at odd hours to accommodate different time zones. Mirko noticed immediately. Despite his best efforts to maintain boundaries, the sheer urgency and importance of the case made it impossible to keep normal hours. "I understand this is important," she said one evening when he came home well past midnight for the third night in a row. "But Izuku, you're running yourself into the ground. You barely sleep, you're not eating properly, and Hikari keeps asking where Dada is." "I know, I'm sorry," Izuku replied, exhaustion heavy in his voice. "This case is just so complex, and the potential consequences, if we miss something." "Are you the only person in the entire hero world who can work on this? The only analyst capable of handling international coordination?" "No, but I'm the director of strategic intelligence. This is my responsibility." Mirko took his hands, her red eyes serious and concerned. "You remember what we talked about before? About delegation and trusting your team? This is exactly the kind of situation where you need to apply those principles. But what if I delegate something crucial and it gets missed? Then it's still not all on you. You have a team for a reason, Izuku. Use them. Trust them." Mirko squeezed his hands. "I'm not saying abandon the case. I'm saying structure it so you're not killing yourself trying to personally handle every detail." She was right, of course. He had fallen back into old patterns, taking on too much personally because of his fear that delegation might result in missing critical information. But that approach was unsustainable, and it was damaging both his health and his family relationships. The next morning, Izuku restructured the entire operation. He divided the international coordination into regional teams, each led by one of his senior analysts with clear decision-making authority. He established protocols for what information needed to be escalated to him versus what could be handled by the team leads. He set specific work hours for himself, with clear handoff procedures for coverage outside those hours. It felt uncomfortable at first, letting go of direct control over every aspect of the investigation. But within days, the results spoke for themselves. His team members stepped up brilliantly, taking ownership of their respective areas and making insightful connections he might have missed working alone. The investigation actually progressed faster with proper delegation than it had with him trying to micromanage everything. And crucially, he was able to come home at reasonable hours most days, spend time with Hikari and Mirko, and get adequate sleep. The improvement in his mental clarity and analytical capabilities was immediately noticeable. 3 weeks into the investigation, a pattern began to emerge. The international villain organizations weren't planning a physical attack at all. They were coordinating a massive cyber operation designed to simultaneously compromise hero communication networks, emergency response systems, and critical infrastructure across multiple countries. It's brilliant in a terrifying way, Izuku explained to the commission leadership during a briefing. By attacking the systems heroes rely on rather than heroes directly, they can create chaos without risking direct confrontation. Emergency services can't respond properly, heroes can't coordinate effectively, and in that confusion, they can operate with impunity. Can we stop it? The commission president asked. Yes, but we need to coordinate defensive measures across all affected countries simultaneously. If we shut down their access in one country but not others, they'll just reroute through the unprotected systems. What do you need? Authorization to coordinate directly with international cybersecurity agencies and Hero Commission equivalents. We need to implement defensive protocols simultaneously across all targeted systems. The authorization was granted immediately. Izuku worked with his international counterparts to develop a coordinated response plan. It required precise timing and cooperation between agencies that didn't always work well together, but the shared threat created unusual unity of purpose. The operation was scheduled for a Friday, which meant Izuku would need to be in the command center potentially all day and into the evening. He discussed it with Mirko in advance. This is the culmination of a month of work, he explained. If we succeed, we'll prevent a potentially catastrophic attack. But it means I'll miss family time this weekend. Will this be the end of it? Once this operation is complete, will things go back to normal? Mirko asked. Yes. This is the critical moment. After this, it's cleanup and documentation, which my team can handle with minimal involvement from me. Then go do what you need to do. Hikari and I will be fine. Just promise me you'll take some real time off after this is done. I promise. A full week, no work, just family. The day of the operation arrived with clear weather that seemed at odds with the tension Izuku felt. The command center was filled with commission officials, cybersecurity experts, and liaison officers from multiple international agencies. Screens displayed system status from hero agencies around the world. All agencies report ready, Tanaka announced. Defensive protocols are in place and awaiting activation. Izuku reviewed the final status one more time. Everything was aligned, all the international coordination they had worked so hard to achieve was ready to execute. Activate defensive protocols, all agencies simultaneously, he ordered. Around the world, hero communication systems and critical infrastructure implemented new security measures in synchronized fashion. For several minutes, nothing seemed to happen. Then alerts began appearing on screens as the systems detected and blocked intrusion attempts. We're seeing massive attempted access from multiple international sources, a cybersecurity analyst reported. The defensive protocols are holding. They're trying to brute force through but can't penetrate the new security layers. The attempted cyber attack continued for nearly 4 hours, the villain organizations throwing increasingly sophisticated methods at the protected systems. But the coordinated defense held. Every attack vector was blocked, every attempted intrusion detected and neutralized. Attack attempts are decreasing, the analyst reported. They're giving up. Another hour passed with no further intrusion attempts. Finally, the all-clear was given. The attack had been completely thwarted. Outstanding work, everyone, the commission president announced to the command center. Director Midoriya, your leadership on this operation was exemplary. You potentially saved thousands of lives and prevented catastrophic infrastructure damage. Izuku felt profound relief and satisfaction, but also exhaustion. He had been functioning on adrenaline for weeks, and now that the crisis was resolved, the fatigue hit him all at once. He arrived home late that evening to find Mirko waiting up for him, Hikari long since asleep. I saw the news, she said, pulling him into a hug. Complete success. I'm so proud of you. It was a team effort, Izuku replied, but he was smiling. We did it, Rumi. We stopped something that could have been really bad. And now you're going to rest, Mirko declared. You look exhausted. I promised you a week off. Starting tomorrow, I'm all yours. The following week was blissful. Izuku completely disconnected from work, turning off his phone except for true emergencies. He spent his days with Mirko and Hikari, going to parks, visiting museums, having picnics in their garden, and simply enjoying being together as a family. Hikari was delighted to have both parents' full attention. They took her to an aquarium where she was fascinated by the fish, to a children's museum where she could explore and play, and to a botanical garden where she practiced her quirk under controlled conditions by moving flower petals. I needed this, Izuku admitted one evening as they sat in the garden after Hikari had gone to bed. I was so focused on the case that I didn't realize how much I needed to just stop and be present. You tend to get tunnel vision when you're working on something important, Mirko observed. It's part of what makes you brilliant at your job, but it's also something you need to be aware of and manage. I'm going to implement stronger boundaries when I get back to work. The team proved they can handle things without me micromanaging. I need to trust it more. When Izuku returned to work after his week off, he found that the operation's success had elevated his profile even further. International hero agencies were requesting his consultation on their own cases, and the commission was fielding offers for him to speak at conferences and training programs. Your expertise is in high demand, the commission president told him during a check-in meeting. We're getting requests from around the world for your time and insights. I'm flattered, but I need to be realistic about my capacity. I have a family and existing responsibilities here. I understand completely. We'll be selective about what we accept on your behalf, focusing on opportunities that align with your strategic goals and don't overburden your schedule. One such opportunity came from UA High School. Principal Nezu wanted to expand the Hero course curriculum to include more comprehensive strategic analysis training, and he wanted Izuku to design and potentially teach a new advanced course. This would be more than the classes you currently teach, Nezu explained during their meeting. It would be a full semester-long intensive course for third-year students preparing for professional hero work. We'd want you to develop the curriculum from scratch, tailored specifically to what you think graduating hero students most need to know. Izuku was intrigued. Teaching had always been one of his passions, and the opportunity to create a comprehensive program rather than just individual classes was appealing. I'd need to reduce my commission responsibilities during the semester, he said. I couldn't maintain my current workload and teach a full intensive course. The commission has already indicated they're supportive. They see this as an investment in the next generation of heroes who will benefit from your expertise. After discussing it with Mirko, Izuku accepted the opportunity. The course would begin in the fall semester, giving him several months to develop the curriculum while wrapping up current commission projects. Meanwhile, Hikari continued to develop rapidly. At her quirk counseling assessment, the specialist was impressed by her control level for such a young age. She has excellent focus and spatial awareness, the counselor reported. Her telekinetic ability is quite refined for a 2-year-old. With proper guidance, she could develop very precise control as she gets older. They enrolled Hikari in the play-based quirk development program, which she attended twice a week. She loved it, getting to interact with other children while learning to use her quirk in safe, supervised environments. Izuku often watched through the observation window, marveling at his daughter's abilities. She could move multiple small objects simultaneously, arrange toys in patterns, and even help other children reach items they couldn't access physically. Her natural helpfulness and kindness shone through in how she used her quirk to assist others. She's going to be something special, Mirko said one day as they watched Hikari practice. Whether she becomes a hero or uses her quirk in some other capacity, she's going to make a difference. Just like her mother, Izuku replied. As spring turned to summer, their lives settled into a sustainable rhythm. Izuku had learned to balance his various responsibilities more effectively, maintaining clear boundaries between work and family time. Mirko had reached a comfortable equilibrium in her hero work, challenging herself while also being mindful of her role as a mother. One warm June evening, they were having a family dinner in the garden when Mirko brought up something she had been thinking about for a while. Remember when we talked about having another baby? She asked casually while helping Hikari eat her vegetables. Izuku looked up, his heart rate increasing. Yes, we said maybe when Hikari was a bit older and more independent. Well, she's definitely more independent now. And I've been thinking. I'm ready if you are. Ready to try for another baby. Izuku looked at Hikari, who was focused intently on using her quirk to move a cherry tomato across her plate, and then at Mirko, his wife and partner and the mother of his child. I'm ready too, he said. Let's do it. Let's grow our family. Mirko smiled, that fierce joyful expression he loved so much. Then we're really doing this. Potentially becoming parents to 2 children. Potentially, Izuku agreed, reaching across the table to take her hand. They began trying for a second child that summer, approaching it with more knowledge and less anxiety than the first time. They knew what to expect from pregnancy, understood the challenges it would bring, and felt confident in their ability to handle it while maintaining their careers and caring for Hikari. 2 months later, Mirko took a pregnancy test that came back positive. They had succeeded far more quickly than anticipated, and the reality of it was both exciting and slightly overwhelming. We're going to have another baby, Mirko said wonderingly, looking at the positive test. Hikari's going to be a big sister. Our family is growing, Izuku replied, emotion thick in his voice as he pulled her into an embrace. They waited until Mirko's first doctor's appointment to confirm the pregnancy before telling anyone. The appointment went well, confirming that Mirko was about 6 weeks along and everything appeared healthy. How do we tell Hikari? Mirko asked on the drive home. She's only 2.5. Does she even understand the concept of a sibling? We'll explain it simply and age appropriately. She's smart, she'll understand on some level. That evening, they sat down with Hikari in her room, surrounded by her toys and books. Hikari, sweetie, Mama and Dada have something exciting to tell you, Izuku began. What? Hikari asked, her amber eyes bright with curiosity. You're going to be a big sister, Mirko explained. Mama has a baby growing in her tummy, and in several months, you'll have a little brother or sister to play with. Hikari's eyes widened. Baby. In Mama's tummy? That's right. The baby is very tiny right now, but it's growing, and when it's ready, it will come out and be part of our family. I be big sister? Hikari processed this information seriously. I help with baby. Yes, you'll be a big sister, and you can help Mama and Dada take care of the baby when it arrives, Izuku confirmed. Hikari seemed pleased with this development. Okay. I be good big sister. They informed their families next. Inko cried happy tears, excited about a second grandchild. Mirko's parents expressed their joy and promised to visit more often to help once the baby arrived. Their friends in the hero community offered congratulations and support. The pregnancy progressed smoothly in the early months. Mirko experienced less severe morning sickness than with Hikari, which she considered a blessing. She continued her hero work with appropriate modifications, taking on less physically demanding assignments as her pregnancy became more apparent. Izuku threw himself into preparing his new course curriculum for UA, while also managing his commission responsibilities. The course he was designing focused on real-world strategic analysis, using case studies from actual operations he had worked on to teach students how to think analytically about hero work. By the time fall arrived and classes began at UA, Mirko was 5 months pregnant and showing significantly. She had taken a temporary leave from active hero work but was consulting with her agency on strategy and coordination, using her experience to guide younger heroes. Izuku's new course at UA was challenging but rewarding. He had 18 third-year students, all of them serious about their hero careers and eager to learn advanced analytical skills. The curriculum he had developed pushed them to think critically, question assumptions, and develop sophisticated strategic thinking. One of his students was particularly impressive, a young woman named Yaoi Rozumomo, who had a creation quirk and a brilliant analytical mind. Her ability to assess situations and develop complex tactical solutions reminded Izuku of himself at that age, though she had the advantage of a powerful quirk to implement her strategies. Yaoi Rozu, your analysis of the hostage scenario was exceptional, Izuku told her after one class. You identified vulnerabilities in the villain's position that most professional heroes would have missed. Thank you, Midoriya-sensei. Your teaching has really helped me understand how to approach these situations more systematically. Have you considered specializing in strategic coordination after graduation? You have real talent for it. I've been thinking about it. I always assumed I would focus on frontline hero work, but your class has shown me there are other ways to make a significant impact. Conversations like this reminded Izuku why teaching mattered. He was not just imparting knowledge. He was helping young heroes discover their strengths and potential career paths. At home, preparations for the new baby were underway. They had decided to convert another spare bedroom into a nursery, keeping Hikari's room as it was so she wouldn't feel displaced. Hikari was involved in the preparations, helping choose colors and offering opinions on where things should go. Baby's room pretty, she declared one evening as they painted the walls a soft yellow. Baby like it. I think so too, Mirko agreed, watching Hikari help with a tiny paintbrush that wasn't actually touching anything. You're being such a good big sister already. At 6 months pregnant, Mirko and Izuku went for the anatomy scan that would reveal the baby's sex. They had debated whether to find out in advance or wait until birth, ultimately deciding that knowing would help them prepare both practically and emotionally. Would you like to know the baby's sex? The ultrasound technician asked. Yes, please, they answered in unison. The technician smiled. It's a boy. You're having a son. Izuku felt tears forming as he looked at the image on the screen, his son, their second child. Mirko squeezed his hand tightly, her own eyes glistening with emotion. The boy, she whispered. We're having a boy. They told Hikari that evening. You're going to have a baby brother, Izuku explained. A little boy who will need his big sister to help take care of him. Brother, Hikari repeated thoughtfully. I teach him things. You'll teach him lots of things, Mirko assured her. You'll be the best big sister. Now that they knew they were having a son, they began seriously discussing names again. They wanted something meaningful but not burdensome, a name that would give their son the freedom to become whoever he wanted to be. What about Kaido? Mirko suggested one evening. It can mean ocean flying or Big Dipper. It has connotations of vastness and potential. Kaido Midoriya Sagayama, Izuku tested the name. I like it. It's strong but gentle, traditional but not old-fashioned. And it's settled. Kaido it is. As Mirko's pregnancy progressed into the third trimester, she became increasingly uncomfortable, just as she had with Hikari. Her mobility was limited, she had difficulty sleeping, and she was generally frustrated by her body's limitations. Izuku did everything he could to help, taking on more of the household responsibilities and ensuring Mirko could rest as much as possible. Hikari, in her own way, tried to help too. She would bring her mother pillows, use her quirk to fetch items that were out of reach, and talk to Mirko's belly about being a good big sister. It was incredibly sweet and helped Mirko feel better even when she was physically miserable. I forgot how much pregnancy sucks, Mirko grumbled one evening when she was particularly uncomfortable. Why did we decide to do this again? Because we love being parents and wanted to give Hikari a sibling. Izuku suggested, massaging her swollen feet. Right. That. I'm going to try to remember that when I'm in labor, cursing both of us. Izuku's semester at UA was coming to an end, his advanced course, concluding with a complex practical exercise where students had to develop comprehensive strategic analyses of simulated crisis scenarios. The quality of work his students produced was impressive, demonstrating significant growth in their analytical capabilities over the semester. You've created something special here, Principal Nezu told him during the final faculty meeting. The students have developed skills that will make them significantly more effective as professional heroes. We'd like you to make this a permanent part of the curriculum. I'd be honored, Izuku replied. Though I'd need to continue limiting it to 1 semester per year to maintain my commission responsibilities. That's perfectly acceptable. We're fortunate to have your expertise at all. But the semester ending in early December and Mirko's due date approaching in mid-January, they entered the final phase of preparation for Kaido's arrival. The nursery was complete, clothes and supplies were ready, and they had childcare arrangements in place for Hikari during the delivery. One evening in late December, they were decorating their home for New Year's celebrations when Hikari asked a question that showed how much she had been thinking about the coming changes. Mama, Dada, when baby brother comes, you still love me? Both parents immediately stopped what they were doing and knelt down to Hikari's level. Sweetheart, we will always love you, Izuku said seriously. Having a baby brother doesn't mean we love you any less. It means we have more love to share with both of you. Your brother is going to be very lucky to have you as a big sister, Mirko added. And Mama and Dada are so lucky to have such a wonderful daughter. Hikari seemed reassured, nodding solemnly before returning to help place decorations, using her quirk to hang ornaments on branches she couldn't reach physically. She's going to be okay, Mirko said softly to Izuku. We're all going to be okay. We are, Izuku agreed, wrapping an arm around his pregnant wife while watching their daughter play. We're going to be a family of 4, and it's going to be chaotic and challenging and absolutely wonderful. As the year drew to a close and they prepared to welcome their second child, Izuku reflected on how far they had come. From a nervous job interview to a partnership that had grown into love and marriage, from uncertainty about their futures to building successful careers and a beautiful family. The journey had been unexpected at every turn, full of challenges they had never anticipated and joys they had never imagined. But they had faced it all together, growing stronger and more committed with each obstacle overcome and each milestone celebrated. And now, as they stood on the threshold of another major life change, Izuku felt confident and excited rather than anxious. They had done this before, they knew what to expect, and they had each other to lean on when things got difficult. Whatever the future held, whatever challenges came their way, they would face it together. As partners, as parents, as 2 people deeply in love who had built something beautiful and lasting out of an unexpected beginning. And that, Izuku thought as he watched Mirko help Hikari hang another decoration, was more than he had ever dared to dream of all those years ago when he first walked through Mirko's agency doors looking for a job. It was everything. The winter morning arrived with a blanket of fresh snow covering Tokyo, transforming the city into a quiet, pristine landscape. Izuku stood at the kitchen window watching the sunrise while preparing breakfast, his mind already running through the day's schedule. Mirko was now 38 weeks pregnant, past her due date by 3 days, and every morning brought the question of whether today would be the day their son arrived. Behind him, he heard the soft padding of small feet. Hikari appeared in the doorway, her green hair sticking up at odd angles from sleep, dragging her stuffed rabbit behind her. Morning, Dada, she said, climbing onto a kitchen chair. Baby brother come today? It had become her daily question, asked with the earnest curiosity of a nearly 3-year-old who didn't quite understand why the promised baby brother was taking so long to arrive. Maybe today, sweetheart, Izuku replied, setting a small plate of pancakes in front of her. Or maybe tomorrow. Baby Kaido will come when he's ready. I'm ready now, Hikari declared, cutting her pancakes into pieces with more enthusiasm than precision. Want to be big sister? Mirko appeared next, moving slowly and carefully, one hand supporting her very pregnant belly. She looked exhausted, having barely slept due to discomfort and Braxton Hicks contractions that had been increasing in frequency over the past few days. "Any changes?" Izuku asked, immediately moving to help her into a chair. "More of the same. Contractions are still irregular, nothing consistent enough to indicate real labor." Mirko accepted the tea he offered with a grateful smile. "I swear this kid is going to stay in there forever." Hikari was 3 days early. This one is apparently content to stay past the deadline. "The doctor said it's completely normal for second pregnancies to go past the due date," Izuku reminded her gently. "The doctor can't say whatever she wants. She's not the one who feels like she's carrying a bowling ball everywhere." Hikari looked up from her pancakes with concern. "Mama okay?" Mirko's expression immediately softened. "Mama's fine, sweetie. Just ready for your baby brother to arrive so I can move normally again." After breakfast, Izuku helped Hikari get dressed while Mirko rested on the couch. He had taken indefinite leave from both his commission work and UA teaching duties 2 weeks ago, wanting to be immediately available when labor started. His team was handling everything admirably in his absence, which gave him peace of mind that important work wasn't being neglected. Around mid-morning, Inko arrived to spend the day with them. She had come to Tokyo specifically to be available to watch Hikari when they needed to go to the hospital, and her presence was both helpful and comforting. "Any signs yet?" she asked as Izuku let her in. "Not yet. Still waiting." Inko settled in with Hikari, reading stories and playing games, while Izuku attended to household tasks and kept a watchful eye on Mirko. The waiting was challenging in its own way, the anticipation building with each passing hour that labor didn't start. Early in the afternoon, Mirko stood up from the couch and froze, her hand going to her belly. "That was different." "Different how?" Izuku asked, immediately alert. "Stronger. More intense than the Braxton Hicks have been." She waited, breathing carefully. "There's another one." "Okay, I think this might actually be it." Over the next hour, the contractions became more regular and intense. Izuku timed them carefully, noting the increasing frequency and duration. By 3 o'clock, they were coming every 7 minutes and lasting about 45 seconds each. "We should call the doctor," he said, already reaching for his phone. The doctor advised them to come to the hospital when contractions were 5 minutes apart or if Mirko's water broke. They continued monitoring, Mirko walking around the house to help labor progress while Izuku stayed close by. Hikari watched all of this with wide, curious eyes. "Baby brother coming now?" "Yes, sweetheart," Izuku said, kneeling down to her level. "Mama is going to go to the hospital and Grandma Inko is going to stay here with you. When your baby brother is born, we'll call and you can come meet him." "Okay. I be good for Grandma," Hikari promised seriously. "Help with baby brother when he home." Around 5 o'clock, Mirko's water broke. The contractions immediately intensified and they knew it was time to go. Izuku grabbed the hospital bag they had prepared weeks ago, while Mirko said goodbye to Hikari. "You're going to be the best big sister," Mirko told her daughter, holding her carefully despite a contraction building. "Mama and Dada love you so much." "Love you too, Mama. Love baby brother." The drive to the hospital was tense, with Mirko breathing through increasingly intense contractions, while Izuku focused on getting them there safely despite his own nervousness. This was his second time going through this process, but it was no less anxiety-inducing than the first. At the hospital, they were quickly checked in and brought to a labor and delivery room. The medical staff were efficient and professional, checking Mirko's progress and confirming that she was already 6 centimeters dilated and progressing quickly. "This is moving faster than your first delivery," the doctor noted after examining Mirko. "Second babies often come more quickly. You could be meeting your son in just a few hours." Mirko opted for an epidural early on, having learned from her first delivery that there was no prize for suffering unnecessarily. Once the pain medication took effect, she was able to relax somewhat, though the intensity of labor was still evident. Izuku stayed by her side constantly, holding her hand, offering ice chips, helping her breathe through contractions. He had reviewed all the childbirth preparation materials again in the weeks leading up to this, wanting to be as helpful as possible. "You're doing amazing," he told her during a particularly intense contraction. "So strong and brave." Less commentary, more ice chips, Mirko managed, and despite the situation, Izuku had to smile. Even in labor, she maintained her direct communication style. The labor progressed steadily over the next few hours. By 8 o'clock, Mirko was fully dilated and the doctor announced it was time to push. The next hour was intense and primal, Mirko drawing on every ounce of her considerable strength and determination to bring their son into the world. And then, at 9:17 p.m. on a snowy January evening, with one final push, Kaido Midoriya Sagayama was born. The sound of his cry filled the room, and Izuku felt tears streaming down his face as the doctor placed their son on Mirko's chest. Kaido was perfect, tiny and red-faced and absolutely beautiful. "He's here," Mirko said wonderingly, her voice thick with emotion as she held their son. Our boy is here. He's perfect, Izuku managed, overwhelmed by the rush of love he felt looking at his newborn son. You did it, Rumi. You were incredible. Kaido had a full head of white hair like his mother, though time would tell if it would darken or stay white. His eyes, when he briefly opened them, appeared to be a deep green similar to Izuku's. He was smaller than Hikari had been at birth, 7 pounds even, but healthy and vigorous based on his strong cries. After the medical team completed their initial checks and cleaning, they allowed Izuku to hold Kaido for the first time. He cradled his son carefully, marveling at the tiny fingers that gripped his own, the perfect features, the miracle of this new life. "Hello, Kaido," he whispered. "I'm your daddy. I've been waiting so long to meet you." Once Mirko was moved to a recovery room and settled, Izuku called his mother. "He's here, Mom. Kaido was born about an hour ago. Everyone is healthy." "Oh, Izuku, congratulations. How's Rumi? How's the baby?" "Both doing great. Kaido is perfect. Can you bring Hikari to meet her brother tomorrow morning?" "Of course. She's going to be so excited." That night, Izuku split his time between caring for Mirko and bonding with Kaido. The baby nursed well, which the lactation consultant said was a good sign. Between feedings, he slept peacefully in the bassinet beside Mirko's bed. "Two kids," Mirko said softly in the quiet hours of early morning, watching Izuku hold their sleeping son. "We have 2 children now." "Our family is complete," Izuku agreed. "This feels right, doesn't it? The 4 of us." "It really does." The next morning, Inko arrived with Hikari, who was bouncing with excitement. She had been prepared for what to expect when meeting her baby brother, but nothing quite matched her actual reaction. When she saw the tiny baby in Mirko's arms, her eyes went wide with wonder. "That baby Kaido?" "This is your baby brother," Mirko confirmed. "Do you want to meet him?" They positioned Hikari carefully on the hospital bed, supported by pillows, and Mirko placed Kaido in her arms with help. The moment was captured in a photo that Izuku knew he would treasure forever. Hikari staring at her baby brother with an expression of pure awe and love. "He's so small," she whispered, as if afraid her normal voice might startle him. "You were this small once too," Izuku told her. "And now you're a big sister who can help take care of him." "I be careful. I be good big sister." Over the next 2 days in the hospital, they began adjusting to life as a family of 4. Kaido proved to be a relatively calm baby, sleeping in reasonable stretches and nursing well. Mirko's recovery was progressing smoothly, without the complications that had made her first delivery more challenging. They received visitors throughout their hospital stay. Hawks arrived with an enormous stuffed animal and jokes about being the fun uncle. Ryukyu brought thoughtful gifts for both Kaido and Hikari, ensuring the older sister didn't feel left out. Even Endeavor stopped by briefly, offering gruff but genuine congratulations. On the 3rd day, they were cleared to go home. The drive back was nerve-wracking with 2 children in the car, both Izuku and Mirko hyper-aware of their precious cargo. But they arrived safely, pulling into their driveway as snow began to fall again. "Welcome home, Kaido," Izuku said softly as he carefully removed the infant carrier from the car. "This is where you're going to grow up." Inside, they had prepared as much as possible, but nothing could fully prepare them for the reality of caring for a newborn, while also parenting an energetic almost 3-year-old. The first week was chaotic and exhausting, with round-the-clock feedings, diaper changes, and soothing a baby who had his days and nights temporarily confused. Hikari tried to help in her own way, bringing diapers when asked, singing songs to her brother when he cried, and using her quirk to fetch items from across the room. But she also struggled with the adjustment, acting out occasionally when she felt her parents' attention was too focused on the baby. "I think she's feeling displaced," Mirko observed one evening after Hikari had a rare tantrum about bedtime. "We need to make sure she still feels special and important." They implemented dedicated big sister time, where one parent would focus exclusively on Hikari, while the other cared for Kaido. They praised her helping behaviors extensively and involved her in caring for her brother whenever appropriate. Gradually, the adjustment became easier. Hikari's jealousy faded as she realized that having a baby brother didn't mean losing her parents' love. Kaido settled into more predictable sleep and feeding patterns. And Izuku and Mirko found their rhythm managing 2 children with very different needs. Inko stayed for the first 2 weeks, her help invaluable as they navigated those early days. She cooked meals, did laundry, and took over childcare when Izuku and Mirko desperately needed sleep. When she finally returned to her own home, both new parents felt a pang of anxiety about managing alone. "We can do this," Mirko said with more confidence than she felt. "People raise multiple children all the time. We've got this." And somehow, they did. The days fell into a pattern. Early morning feedings with Kaido, breakfast with Hikari, playtime and activities for the toddler while the baby napped, afternoon routines, dinner preparation, evening baths and bedtime rituals. It was exhausting and demanding, but also deeply fulfilling. Kaido proved to be a different baby than Hikari had been. Where she had been energetic and demanding of attention from early on, he was calmer and more content. He would lie peacefully in his bassinet watching the mobile above him or rest quietly in someone's arms observing his surroundings with serious green eyes. "He's like a tiny analyst already," Mirko joked. "Look at how he studies everything. He gets that from you. And Hikari gets her fierce determination from you," Izuku countered. "We've got a good balance." At 6 weeks old, Kaido smiled for the first time, a genuine responsive smile that made Izuku's heart melt. He had been changing the baby's diaper when Kaido looked up at him, and his face broke into a huge grin, and Izuku felt tears forming at the pure joy of the moment. "Rumi," he smiled. A real smile. He called out excitedly. Mirko came running, Hikari toddling behind her, both wanting to witness this milestone. And Kaido, cooperative baby that he was, smiled again when he saw his mother. "There's our happy boy," Mirko cooed, her own face breaking into a matching smile. As Kaido grew and developed, they watched for signs of quirk manifestation with curiosity but no pressure. With Hikari, her telekinetic ability had manifested around 14 months. But every child developed differently, and they were prepared for any possibility. When Kaido was 2 months old, Izuku received a call from the Hero Public Safety Commission. His assistant, Tanaka, had been managing things in his absence, but there was a situation they needed his specific expertise on. "I know you're on parental leave," the commission president said, "but we have a case that's beyond our current analytical capabilities. A villain organization with an unprecedented complexity of operations. We wouldn't ask if it wasn't critical." Izuku looked at Mirko, who was nursing Kaido while Hikari played nearby. His family needed him, but the hero world also needed him. It was the eternal balance he would always have to navigate. "I can consult remotely," he offered. "Send me the case files and I'll review them from home. I can do video conferences for strategy sessions, but I can't come into the office regularly yet." "That would be extremely helpful. Thank you, Midoriya." So Izuku returned to work in a limited capacity, analyzing cases during Kaido's nap times, conducting video conferences in his home office, while Mirko watched both children, and contributing his expertise while still being present for his family. It was challenging to balance everything, but he was learning to be more flexible and forgiving of himself. Some days his work wasn't as thorough as he would have liked because a baby needed feeding or a toddler needed attention. Other days, his parenting wasn't as patient as he wanted to be because he was stressed about a difficult case. But he was doing his best, and that had to be enough. Mirko was also navigating her own transition back to work. At 3 months postpartum, she began physical training to return to hero shape, starting slowly and building gradually. Her body had changed with 2 pregnancies, and it took time and patience to rebuild her strength and stamina. "I'm not bouncing back as quickly this time," she admitted one evening after a particularly frustrating training session. "I'm older, I've had 2 pregnancies, my body is different." "You're also being smarter about it," Izuku pointed out. "You're not pushing yourself to injury trying to rush the process. That's growth. I guess. It's just hard when I remember how strong I used to be." "You're still strong. You're just in a different phase of life now, balancing hero work with being a mother to 2 children. That takes a different kind of strength." By the time Kaido was 4 months old, Mirko had been cleared to return to active hero duty. She started with limited patrol hours, gradually increasing her schedule as her stamina improved and they sorted out childcare logistics. They had hired a full-time nanny, a kind woman named Sato-san, who had extensive experience with hero families and understood the unpredictable schedules. She came to their home 5 days a week, caring for both children, while Izuku worked and Mirko did hero work. Hikari adored Sato-san, who had endless patience for the curious toddler's questions and played elaborate games with her. Kaido seemed content with her as well, settling easily in her arms and smiling when she talked to him. "It feels strange leaving them with someone else," Mirko confessed before her first patrol back. "I know Sato-san is wonderful, but still." "I know. But we can't do everything ourselves, and this way we can both pursue our careers while knowing they're well cared for." Izuku adjusted her hero costume, which she had updated to accommodate her post-pregnancy body. "You're going to be great out there. The hero world has missed you." Mirko's first day back was successful, and she came home energized in a way she hadn't been since before Kaido's birth. She had stopped a robbery, helped with a rescue operation, and reconnected with other heroes she had worked with before her leave. "I forgot how much I love this," she said, still in her costume and slightly disheveled from the day's activities. "Being a hero, protecting people, making a difference. I'm glad you're back to it," Izuku said, genuinely meaning it, even though part of him had enjoyed having her home more. As spring arrived and cherry blossoms bloomed again in their garden, life settled into a new normal. They were managing 2 children with very different needs, 2 demanding careers, and a household. It was chaotic and exhausting and occasionally overwhelming, but it was also filled with joy and love and meaning. Hikari celebrated her 3rd birthday with a small party in their garden. She had grown so much, from a tiny baby to a bright, curious, kind-hearted child with developing quirk abilities and a vocabulary that sometimes surprised even her parents. "I'm so glad I big sister," she declared during her birthday party, looking at Kaido who was being held by Inko. Baby Kaido, the best brother. Kaido, for his part, seemed to be developing into a calm, observant baby. At 5 months, he was meeting all his developmental milestones, rolling over, reaching for objects, and responding to his name. He watched everything with serious attention, particularly fascinated by his sister's activities. One afternoon, while Hikari was using her quirk to arrange her toys in elaborate patterns, Kaido watched from his playmat with intense focus. Suddenly, a toy near him shifted slightly, moving without being touched. Izuku, who had been observing nearby, immediately took note. He watched carefully, and it happened again. A small stuffed animal moved a few inches toward Kaido's reaching hand. "Rumi," he called softly, not wanting to startle the moment. "I think Kaido might be showing quirk manifestation." Mirko came over quickly, and they both watched as Kaido, with immense concentration, moved a rattle closer to himself, using what appeared to be a telekinetic ability similar to his sister's. "He has the same quirk as Hikari," Mirko said wonderingly. "That's rare, siblings with identical quirks." "Not identical," Izuku observed. "Look at the way he's moving the object. It's more direct, more forceful than Hikari's subtle manipulation. Similar ability, different expression." They scheduled an appointment with the same quirk specialist who had assessed Hikari. Dr. Yamada was fascinated by the sibling similarity. Telekinetic quirks are relatively rare to begin with, and having two siblings both manifest the same type is unusual, she explained after examining Kaido. "There's clearly a genetic component, likely from Mr. Midoriya's side, since telekinesis wasn't present in Ms. Usagiyama's quirk. But I'm quirkless," Izuku pointed out. "Yes, but genetic quirk factors can skip generations or recombine in unexpected ways. It's possible you carry latent quirk genes that manifested in your children, even though they didn't activate in you." It was a fascinating explanation, and it gave Izuku a strange sense of connection to his children's abilities. Even though he had never manifested a quirk himself, he had somehow contributed to his children's quirk development. As summer approached, both children continued to develop and grow. Hikari's language and cognitive skills were advancing rapidly, and her quirk control was becoming more refined. She could now move multiple objects simultaneously, arrange them in complex patterns, and even help with household tasks like setting the table using her ability. Kaido was growing into a happy, healthy baby. At 6 months, he was sitting up independently, showing early interest in solid foods, and his telekinetic quirk was becoming more apparent. He would pull toys toward himself, occasionally surprising himself when they moved in response to his intention. "They're going to be a formidable team," Hawks observed during a visit. "Two telekinetic kids working together. That's some serious potential." "We just want them to be happy and healthy," Mirko replied. "Whatever they do with their quirks is up to them." Izuku had fully returned to work by this point, balancing his commission responsibilities with teaching at UA and parenting duties. He had learned to be more efficient with his time, to delegate more effectively, and to accept that perfection in all areas of life simultaneously was impossible. Some days, work had to take precedence because of urgent cases. Other days, family needed him more and work could wait. The key was being flexible and communicating clearly with both his team and his family about priorities. One evening in late June, after both children were asleep, Izuku and Mirko sat in their garden watching the koi swim in the pond. It was a rare quiet moment, and they savored it. "Can you believe we've been together for almost 4 years?" Mirko asked, leaning against Izuku's shoulder. "It feels like yesterday and forever at the same time. 4 years since you hired me as your assistant. 5 years since that first interview." Izuku wrapped his arm around her. "My whole life changed that day." "Mine too. I had no idea when I hired a nervous quirkless kid to organize my life that I was actually hiring my future husband and father of my children. Do you ever regret it? Any of it?" "Never," Mirko said firmly. "This life, chaotic as it is exactly what I want. You, our kids, the balance between hero work and family, it's perfect. Even when Hikari is having a tantrum and Kaido is crying and we're both exhausted and covered in various bodily fluids." Mirko laughed. "Even then. Especially then, actually. Those are the moments that make everything feel real and meaningful." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, both processing how much their lives had changed and grown. 4 years ago, they had been employer and employee, dancing around mutual attraction. 3 years ago, they had been newly in love, navigating the early stages of a relationship. 2 years ago, they had been new parents figuring out how to care for their first child. And now they were here, experienced parents of 2, established in their careers, secure in their relationship and family. "What do you think the next 4 years will bring?" Izuku asked. "Hikari starting school, probably. Kaido becoming a toddler and all the chaos that entails. More hero work, more cases for you to solve. Maybe some quiet moments like this scattered throughout the chaos. That sounds perfect. The cry from inside the house interrupted their moment, Kaido waking for a feeding. They both sighed, the brief respite over, but neither was truly upset. I'll get him, Izuku offered, starting to stand. We'll both go, Mirko decided. Check on Hikari too while we're at it. Inside, they found Kaido fussing in his crib, not quite crying yet, but building toward it. Izuku picked him up while Mirko checked on Hikari, who was sleeping peacefully, her stuffed rabbit clutched tightly. As Izuku settled into the rocking chair to feed Kaido a bottle, Mirko sat on the floor nearby, watching them with a soft expression. This is it, you know, she said quietly. This is everything. Not the hero rankings or the important cases or the public recognition. This. Our family, our children, these quiet moments in the middle of the night. I know, Izuku agreed, looking down at his son who was drinking contentedly. This is what matters most. They sat together in the dimly lit nursery, the house quiet around them, except for the soft sounds of Kaido feeding. Outside, the city continued its endless motion, villains plotted, heroes patrolled, and the complex machinery of hero society turned. But in this room, in this moment, it was just the four of them, a family built on unexpected beginnings, sustained by love and commitment, and looking forward to whatever the future might bring. As Kaido finished his bottle and drifted back to sleep, Izuku carefully placed him in the crib and stood beside Mirko, both of them looking at their sleeping son. Ready for whatever comes next? Mirko asked softly. With you? Always, Izuku replied, taking her hand. They turned off the nursery light and headed back to their own room, knowing they would be up again in a few hours for another feeding, another diaper change, another moment in the endless beautiful chaos of parenthood. But they would face it together, as they faced everything: partners, lovers, parents, two people who had found each other against all odds and built something extraordinary. And that was more than enough. It was everything. The morning sun filtered through the curtains of their bedroom as Izuku woke to the sound of small footsteps approaching. He checked the clock: 6:30 in the morning, which was actually sleeping in by their household standards. The door opened slowly, and Hikari peeked in, now 3.5 years old and growing more independent every day. Ada, Kaido awake, she whispered loudly, clearly trying to be quiet, but not quite understanding the concept of an indoor voice. Izuku sat up carefully, not wanting to disturb Mirko, who had been up late the previous night on patrol. Okay, sweetheart. Let's go check on your brother. In the nursery, he found Kaido standing in his crib, holding onto the rails and bouncing excitedly. At 9 months old, he had recently learned to pull himself up to standing and was immensely proud of this accomplishment, demonstrating it constantly. Good morning, buddy, Izuku said softly, lifting his son out of the crib. Kaido immediately grabbed at his father's face with sticky hands, giggling when Izuku pretended to eat his fingers. Downstairs, Izuku prepared breakfast while both children played in the living room. Hikari had taken on the role of entertainer, using her increasingly controlled telekinetic quirk to make toys dance and float for Kaido's amusement. The baby watched with fascination, occasionally clapping his hands when something particularly interesting happened. The dynamic between the siblings had developed beautifully over the past few months. Hikari had moved past any jealousy and fully embraced being a big sister. She helped in small ways, bringing diapers when asked, singing to Kaido when he was fussy, and fiercely protective if she perceived any threat to her baby brother. Kaido, for his part, adored his sister. His whole face would light up when she entered a room, and he would track her movements constantly. His own telekinetic quirk was developing, though at his age it was still very inconsistent and uncontrolled. Objects near him would occasionally shift or move when he was particularly focused or emotional. Mirko appeared as Izuku was plating pancakes, looking tired but determined. Morning. Please tell me there's coffee. Already brewing, Izuku assured her, gesturing to the machine. How was patrol? Long. We had a situation in Shibuya that took most of the night to resolve. 3 villains with complementary quirks causing chaos. She poured coffee and took a grateful sip. But we got them all in custody with minimal property damage and no civilian injuries. That's excellent work. Mama. Hikari came running over, wrapping her arms around Mirko's legs. I missed you. I missed you too, baby girl, Mirko said, bending down to hug her daughter properly despite her exhaustion. Were you good for Dada? Very good. I helped with Kaido and used my quirk to put away my toys before bed. That's my girl. After breakfast, Mirko went to catch up on sleep while Izuku managed both children. It was a routine they had perfected over the past 9 months. Whoever had been working late got to sleep in, while the other handled morning parenting duties. They traded off evening responsibilities the same way, ensuring both got adequate rest while maintaining their respective careers. Around mid-morning, Izuku received a video call from his office. His assistant Tanaka appeared on screen, looking apologetic. Midoriya-san, I'm sorry to interrupt your day off, but we have a developing situation that requires your expertise. What's the situation? Izuku asked, settling Kaido in his lap while Hikari played nearby. There's been a coordinated series of attacks on hero agency communication systems across 3 prefectures. It has the hallmarks of the cyber villain groups you analyzed last year, but with more sophisticated methods. Izuku's analytical mind immediately engaged. Send me everything you have. I can review it from here and provide initial assessment. Are you sure? I know you're with your children. It's fine. This is why we have remote work capabilities. He glanced at the kids. I'll get you a preliminary analysis within 2 hours. After ending the call, Izuku set up his laptop in the living room where he could work while keeping an eye on both children. Hikari was content playing with her toys, and Kaido was happily chewing on a teething ring in his play yard. The files came through quickly, and Izuku dove into the analysis. The attack patterns were indeed sophisticated, showing evolution from previous cyber villain tactics he had seen. Whoever was behind this had learned from past failures and adapted their approach. He was deep in pattern analysis when he heard a crash. Looking up, he saw that Kaido had somehow pulled a book off a nearby shelf using his quirk, and it had knocked over a decorative vase. The baby looked surprised by the result, his lower lip trembling as if about to cry. It's okay, buddy, Izuku said quickly, scooping up Kaido before he could get upset. Accidents happen. You're still learning to control your quirk. I help clean. Hikari volunteered, carefully using her own quirk to lift the pieces of the broken vase and deposit them in a wastebasket. Her control had improved dramatically. She could now manipulate multiple objects with precision. Thank you, sweetheart. That was very helpful. Once the crisis was averted and Kaido was calm again, Izuku returned to his analysis. He worked in bursts between tending to the children's needs, feeding Kaido his mid-morning snack, helping Hikari with a puzzle, changing diapers, and gradually building a comprehensive picture of the cyber attack. By early afternoon, he had completed his preliminary assessment and sent it to his team. The attack was sophisticated but predictable if you understood the underlying methodology. He provided recommendations for defensive measures and identified likely next targets. Mirko emerged from the bedroom around 2, looking more rested and refreshed. How long have you been working? Just a few hours. There was a cyber attack situation that needed analysis. While watching both kids, she looked impressed. You're getting good at multitasking. It's born of necessity, Izuku admitted. Though I definitely prefer having childcare help when I'm working on complex cases. That evening, they had dinner together as a family, something they prioritized whenever both parents were home. Hikari talked non-stop about her day, demonstrating her quirk improvements and proudly announcing that she had helped clean up when Kaido made a mess. She's turning into quite the little helper, Mirko observed. And showing impressive quirk control for her age. The counselor at her quirk development program said she's advanced for 3.5, Izuku shared. They're recommending we consider enrolling her in a pre-quirk training program next year when she turns 4. Already? That seems young. It's not formal training, more like structured play that helps kids understand their quirks in a safe environment. She'd be with other kids her age who have developing quirks. Mirko considered this. I guess it makes sense. We want her to develop good control early so she doesn't accidentally hurt herself or others. After dinner and the children's bath time, they began the bedtime routine. Hikari had graduated to a regular bed a few months ago, and she loved the independence of it, even though it made bedtime more of a negotiation than when she had been contained in a crib. 3 more stories, Dada, she bargained as Izuku tucked her in. 1 more story, he countered. You already had 2. 2 more stories. 1 story, and I'll make it a long one. Okay, Hikari agreed, satisfied with the compromise. Izuku read her an adventure story about a young hero, doing different voices for the characters and making her giggle. By the end, her eyes were drooping, though she fought sleep with determination. Love you, Dada, she murmured as he kissed her forehead. Love you too, sweetheart. Sweet dreams. Across the hall, Mirko was putting Kaido to bed. The 9-month-old was fighting sleep too, wanting to play instead. But eventually, with gentle rocking and soft singing, Mirko got him settled in his crib. Both down? Izuku asked when she emerged. For now. Give it 30 minutes, and Kaido will probably wake up once more before settling for the night. They collapsed on the couch together, finally having a dull time after a long day of parenting and work. Izuku pulled up the news on his tablet, checking on the aftermath of the cyber attacks. Your analysis was spot on, Mirko commented, reading over his shoulder. They implemented your defensive recommendations and successfully blocked 2 additional attacks this afternoon. I'm glad it helped. This group is persistent though. They'll evolve their tactics again. And you'll adapt your analysis. It's what you do. The next morning brought a new challenge. Izuku was scheduled to teach at UA, his first class of the new semester. He had continued his pattern of teaching 1 intensive course per semester, finding it rewarding to work directly with students while maintaining his commission responsibilities. Sato-san, their nanny, arrived promptly at 8 to take over childcare duties. Hikari greeted her enthusiastically, while Kaido gave her a gummy smile from his high chair. "How are my favorite children today?" Sato-san asked warmly. "We're good. Dada is going to teach heroes," Hikari announced importantly. "That's right. And you're going to be good for Sato-san while I'm gone, right?" "Very good." At UA, Izuku's class this semester was focused on advanced threat assessment and strategic planning. His students were third years, soon to graduate and become professional heroes. The curriculum he had designed would challenge them to think beyond simple hero versus villain scenarios. "Good morning, everyone," he began as students settled into their seats. "This semester, we're going to focus on complex threat scenario situations where the obvious solution isn't the best solution, where rushing in could make things worse, where analytical thinking can save lives that brute force cannot." He pulled up footage from a recent villain incident. "Let's start with this." Hero agencies responded to what appeared to be a straightforward hostage situation. Watch what happened when they implemented a standard tactical response. The students watched as the scenario unfolded, heroes surrounding the building and demanding the villain surrender. What they didn't realize was that the hostages were actually accomplices, and the entire situation was a trap designed to lure heroes into a killing zone. 3 heroes were seriously injured, Izuku explained as the footage showed the aftermath. All because the responding team didn't take time to properly analyze the situation before acting. The student raised their hand. "But isn't quick response crucial in hostage situations? Don't delays risk hostage lives?" "Excellent question," Izuku replied. "And yes, speed is often important. But smart speed is better than rushed stupidity. Taking 2 minutes to analyze can prevent walking into an obvious trap." He spent the next hour breaking down the scenario, teaching students how to spot inconsistencies that might indicate deception, how to gather intelligence quickly, how to make rapid analytical assessments under pressure. This was what he loved about teaching, seeing the moment when students grasped a complex concept, watching them develop skills that would keep them alive and make them more effective heroes. After class, several students approached with questions, including Yaoi Rozumomo, who had continued to impress with her analytical abilities. "Midoriya-sensei, I've been thinking about our discussion on information gathering," she said. "How do you balance the need for thorough analysis with the urgency of active situations?" "That's the art of it," Izuku replied. "You develop pattern recognition through study and experience, so your brain can rapidly assess situations based on similarity to scenarios you've analyzed before. It's why I require you to study so many case files. You're building that mental library. So it becomes almost instinctive. Not instinctive, but faster. Your analytical process becomes more efficient with practice." At home that evening, he found Mirko playing with both children in the garden. The weather was warming as spring approached, and they were making the most of the pleasant afternoon. "How was teaching?" Mirko asked as Izuku joined them. "Good. I have a promising group this semester." He sat on the grass, and Kaido immediately crawled over to him, using his father's legs to pull himself to standing. "Look at you, standing so strong," Izuku praised, supporting his son as he bounced excitedly. Hikari came over too, wanting attention. "Dada, watch my quirk." She focused on several flower petals, making them dance in an intricate pattern through the air. "That's beautiful, Hikari. Your control is getting so precise. I practiced lots with Sato-san today." Over dinner, Mirko brought up something that had been on her mind. "The Hero Public Safety Commission contacted me today. They're planning a major international hero summit next month, and they specifically requested that you be one of the keynote speakers." "Me? I'm not really a public speaker. You literally teach classes full of students every week. That's different. That's controlled environment education, not public speaking to hundreds of international heroes. You're the director of strategic intelligence who has successfully coordinated multiple international operations. You're exactly who should be speaking at the summit." Mirko paused. "It would mean traveling to Geneva for a week. Would you be okay with that?" Izuku felt conflicted. Professional opportunities like this were important for his career and for advancing strategic analysis in the hero community. But a week away from his family, from Hikari and Kaido, felt difficult. "What do you think?" he asked Mirko. "Honestly, I think you should do it. It's important work, and I can handle things here with Sato-san's help. Plus, my mom has been wanting to visit. This could be perfect timing." "You're sure?" "Completely sure. This is a significant opportunity, Izuku. You should take it." Over the next few weeks, Izuku prepared his presentation for the summit while balancing his regular responsibilities. He was developing a comprehensive talk on international coordination and intelligence sharing, drawing from his experiences with the cyber villain operations. Meanwhile, the children continued their rapid development. Hikari had her 4th birthday, celebrated with a party that included several children from her quirk development program. She was becoming more social and confident, her personality blossoming as she grew. Kaido, approaching his first birthday, was becoming increasingly mobile and interactive. He could crawl rapidly, pull himself up on furniture, and was attempting his first wobbly steps while holding on to support. His quirk manifestations were becoming more frequent and intentional, though still unpredictable. One afternoon, while Izuku was working in his home office, he heard Mirko call out with a mixture of surprise and pride. "Izuku, come here." Kaido just took his first steps. He rushed to the living room to find Kaido standing unsupported in the middle of the floor, having apparently just walked several steps from the couch to where Mirko was kneeling with outstretched arms. "Do it again, buddy. Walk to Dada," Mirko encouraged. Kaido looked at Izuku, determination on his little face, and took 3 wobbly steps before falling forward. Izuku caught him, both parents cheering enthusiastically. "You did it. You walked." Izuku praised, lifting his son up and spinning him around, making the baby giggle with delight. Hikari came running over, having heard the commotion. "Kaido walked. Like a big boy." "Just like a big boy," Mirko confirmed. "Soon he'll be running around with you. Then I teach him lots of things." As Kaido's first birthday approached, they planned a small celebration, similar to Hikari's first birthday party. The house was decorated simply, family and close friends invited, with a cake shaped like the stuffed bear that Kaido loved carrying everywhere. The party was a success, though the birthday boy was more interested in smashing his birthday cake than eating it. Kaido got frosting everywhere, delighting in the mess while the adults laughed and took photos. 1-year-old, Mirko said wonderfully, watching their son enjoy his cake. "Where did the time go?" "It goes faster with the second one," Inko observed. "Before you know it, he'll be running around causing trouble with his sister." After the party wound down and guests departed, Izuku and Mirko gave Kaido his bath, washing away the layers of birthday cake while he splashed and played in the water. "He's walking, talking in simple words, developing his quirk," Izuku listed. "Our baby is growing up so fast." "They both are," Mirko agreed. "Hikari is starting pre-quirk training next month, and Kaido will be in regular daycare with Sato-san soon, instead of just home care. Are we ready for them to be this independent?" Mirko laughed. "I don't think parents are ever ready for their kids to grow up. But they do it anyway." The week before Izuku's trip to Geneva, he worked intensively with his team to ensure everything would run smoothly in his absence. He prepared detailed protocols, delegated authority clearly, and established communication procedures for emergencies. At home, he spent extra time with both children, knowing he would miss them terribly during the week away. Hikari didn't fully understand why Dada was leaving, but they explained it as a work trip where he would teach other heroes. "You come back?" she asked seriously. "Of course I'll come back, sweetheart. I'll always come back to you and Kaido and Mama. Promise?" "I promise." The morning of his departure was difficult. Both children were clingy, sensing something different about the day. Kaido cried when Izuku tried to hand him to Mirko, and Hikari kept asking him not to go. "It's just 1 week," Izuku assured them, his own heart breaking a little. 7 days, and then Dada will be home. Mirko walked him to the door, both children in her arms. "We'll be fine. Don't worry about us, focus on your presentation and the summit. Call me every day. Send photos and videos. Every single day, I promise." She kissed him softly. "Go change the world, Director Midoriya." The flight to Geneva was long, giving Izuku plenty of time to review his presentation and think about his family. He had traveled for work before, but never for this long, and never this far from home. The summit itself was impressive, held in a grand conference center with hundreds of international heroes and hero agency representatives in attendance. Izuku found himself among some of the most famous heroes in the world, feeling slightly out of place as a civilian analyst among these legendary fighters. His presentation was scheduled for the second day. He spent the first day attending other sessions, learning about different countries' approaches to hero work and strategic planning. It was fascinating to see the variety of methods and philosophies. That evening, he video called home. Mirko answered with both children visible in the background. "Dada." Hikari squealed when she saw him on screen, running over to press her face close to the camera. "I miss you." "I miss you too, sweetheart. Are you being good for Mama?" "Very good. I helped with Kaido and used my quirk to clean up my toys." Kaido crawled into frame, babbling excitedly when he saw his father. "Dada. Dada. Hey, buddy. I miss you so much." They talked for 30 minutes, Izuku asking about their day and Mirko providing updates on everything happening at home. It helped with the loneliness, but it also made him miss them even more. The morning of his presentation, Izuku woke early to review his materials one final time. He had prepared thoroughly, but nervousness still twisted his stomach. This was different from teaching students or briefing commission officials. This was presenting to the international hero community, with his ideas being evaluated by experts from around the world. The conference hall was packed when he took the stage. He could see hundreds of faces, heroes from dozens of countries, all waiting to hear what he had to say. "Good morning," he began, his voice steady despite his nerves. "My name is Izuku Midoriya, and I serve as Director of Strategic Intelligence for Japan's Hero Public Safety Commission. Today, I want to talk about something that I believe is crucial for the future of international hero cooperation: the power of analytical thinking." He launched into his presentation, using case studies from operations he had led or contributed to, demonstrating how proper intelligence analysis and strategic planning could dramatically improve outcomes. He talked about the international cyber villain operation, the coordinated response that had prevented catastrophic damage, and the lessons learned from that experience. The audience was engaged, asking thoughtful questions during designated discussion periods. Other analysts and strategists in attendance offered insights that added to the conversation. By the time he finished, Izuku felt energized rather than drained, excited by the exchange of ideas and the possibilities for future collaboration. Afterward, he was approached by numerous international heroes and officials, wanting to discuss collaboration opportunities, requesting consultation on specific cases, and inviting him to visit their countries to provide training. "Their presentation was exceptional," a hero from France told him. "We would love to have you consult on establishing a strategic analysis division in our agency. The way you broke down the cyber operation was brilliant," another hero from South Korea said. "Could we arrange a follow-up conversation about implementing similar defensive protocols?" The week passed in a blur of meetings, presentations, and networking. Izuku made connections that would benefit his work for years to come, established protocols for international cooperation, and positioned himself as a global leader in hero strategic analysis. But through it all, he missed his family terribly. He called home every evening, watching Hikari and Kaido through the screen, and wishing he could hold them. Mirko assured him everything was fine, that the kids were doing well, but he could hear the exhaustion in her voice from managing alone. Finally, the summit concluded, and Izuku boarded his flight home with relief. The week had been professionally successful beyond his expectations, but he was desperate to be back with his family. When he walked through their front door late in the evening, he was immediately mobbed by Hikari, who came running and launched herself at him. "Ada. You came back. I told you I would, sweetheart," Izuku said, scooping her up and holding her tight. "I missed you so much." Mirko appeared with Kaido, who had been sleeping but woke up at the commotion. The moment the baby saw his father, he reached out desperately, making grabby hands and fussing until Izuku took him. "Hey, buddy. Dad is home." Kaido buried his face in Izuku's shoulder, clinging tightly. They all stood in the entryway like that for several minutes, just holding each other, reconnecting after a week apart. "How was it?" Mirko asked eventually. "Successful. I'll tell you all about it later. Right now, I just want to be with my family." That night, after both children were finally settled in bed, a process that took longer than usual because neither wanted to let go of their father, Izuku and Mirko collapsed on the couch together. "I'm sorry that was so hard on you," Izuku said. "Managing both kids alone for a week. It was challenging," Mirko admitted. "But we survived. And you needed to be there. The work you're doing is important, Izuku. But nothing is more important than this. Than you and the kids. I know. And that's what makes you such a good father and partner. You understand the balance." As they sat together in the quiet house, both exhausted but content, Izuku reflected on the week. The summit had been an incredible professional opportunity, and he had accomplished important work. But coming home to his family, holding his children, being with his wife, this was what truly mattered. The international work would continue, the cases would keep coming, and his career would undoubtedly present more opportunities and challenges. But he would approach all of it with the understanding that his family came first, that success meant nothing if it cost him the moments with the people he loved. "Never again," he said suddenly. "Never again what?" "Never again will I be away from you and the kids for a whole week. It's too long. If future opportunities require extended travel, we'll find ways to bring you all with me, or I'll decline." Mirko smiled, squeezing his hand. "I was hoping you'd say that. Because I hated it too. We're a team, all four of us. We work best when we're together." "Together," Izuku agreed. "That's how we'll face everything going forward. Together." The early autumn breeze carried the scent of changing leaves through the open windows of their home as Izuku reviewed case files at the kitchen table. Hikari, now 4 years old, sat across from him with her own work coloring books and crayons spread out in an organized fashion that made him smile. She had developed his need for order, arranging her crayons by color and keeping her workspace meticulously neat. Kaido, 16 months old and fully mobile, was playing with building blocks in the living room, occasionally toddling over to show his father his latest creation before returning to his play area. His white hair stuck up at odd angles, and his green eyes were focused with intense concentration as he stacked blocks higher and higher. "Ada, look." Hikari called, holding up her artwork. "I drew our family." Izuku examined the picture carefully. 4 stick figures stood in front of a house, each labeled in Hikari's developing handwriting. The tallest figure had white hair and rabbit ears, clearly Mirko. Next to her was a shorter figure with green hair himself. 2 smaller figures represented the children. "This is beautiful, Hikari. I love how you drew Mama's hero costume. She's the strongest," Hikari said matter-of-factly. "And you're the smartest. That's what Mama says." Before Izuku could respond, there was a crash from the living room. Kaido's tower of blocks had toppled, and he stood looking at the mess with his lip trembling, about to cry. "It's okay, buddy," Izuku said quickly, moving to comfort his son. "We can build it again together." But as he approached, something strange happened. The blocks began to move on their own, stacking themselves back up in the same tower formation they had been in before. Kaido watched with wide eyes, his small hands extended toward the blocks. Izuku froze, observing carefully. This wasn't the random, uncontrolled telekinetic movements they had seen before. This was purposeful, coordinated reconstruction. The blocks arranged themselves perfectly, each one finding its exact previous position. "Umi," he called out. "You need to see this." Mirko emerged from upstairs where she had been changing after her morning patrol. "What's wrong?" "Watch Kaido." They both observed as their son, seemingly without conscious effort, continued to manipulate the blocks. He wasn't just moving them randomly, he was reconstructing the exact pattern he had built before, using his quirk with a level of precision that shouldn't be possible at 16 months. Is he recreating the exact tower?" Mirko asked, astonished. "It looks like it. Perfect memory and spatial reconstruction." Izuku knelt beside Kaido. "That's incredible, buddy. How did you do that?" Kaido looked up at his parents and smiled, proud of himself, even if he didn't fully understand what he had done. "Tower. Fixed tower. He fixed it, all right," Mirko said, wonder in her voice. "That's not just telekinesis. That's spatial memory, pattern recognition, analytical reconstruction. We should call Dr. Yamada," Izuku decided. This is unusual development for his age and quirk type. The appointment with a quirk specialist was scheduled for the following week. In the meantime, they observed Kaido carefully, noticing more instances of this advanced quirk usage. He could rebuild puzzles he had completed before, rearrange toys into their previous configurations, and even correct Hikari when she moved objects from where they belonged. "He remembers where everything goes," Hikari observed one afternoon when Kaido used his quirk to move her stuffed rabbit back to her bed. "He's like Dada, always organizing things." At Dr. Yamada's office, they demonstrated what Kaido could do. The specialist set up various tests, building configurations of toys and then scattering them, asking Kaido to rebuild them. The toddler succeeded every time with remarkable accuracy. "This is fascinating," Dr. Yamada said, making notes. His telekinetic quirk appears to have merged with an analytical processing ability. He's not just moving objects, he's understanding and remembering their spatial relationships. "What does that mean for his development?" Mirko asked. "It means his quirk is more complex than we initially assessed. The telekinesis is the visible manifestation, but there's clearly a cognitive component, enhanced spatial awareness and pattern memory." The doctor turned to them seriously. "This kind of quirk development is rare. He'll need specialized guidance as he grows to help him understand and control both aspects." "Is there any danger? Any health concerns?" Izuku asked. "Not physical danger, but cognitive overwhelm is a possibility as he gets older. If he's constantly processing and remembering spatial information, it could become mentally exhausting. We'll need to monitor him and teach him how to filter what he focuses on." They left the appointment with mixed feelings, excitement about Kaido's unique abilities, but also concern about the challenges they might present. "He's going to be extraordinary," Mirko said on the drive home. "Both of our kids are. They're also going to need a lot of support," Izuku added. "Especially Kaido with this cognitive component to his quirk." That evening, after both children were asleep, Izuku and Mirko had a serious discussion about their children's future. "Hikari will be starting quirk training kindergarten next year," Mirko began. "And with Kaido's quirk developing this way, he'll need early intervention too." "I've been thinking about that," Izuku said. "There are specialized programs for children with complex quirks, but they're intensive and expensive. Money isn't the issue. We both have good salaries, and we've been saving. The question is whether we want to push them into specialized training so young." Izuku considered this carefully. "I don't want to pressure them into hero training if that's not what they want. But I also don't want to deny them the tools to understand and control their quirk safely. So we find programs that focus on quirk understanding and control without the hero training pressure." "Exactly. Let them develop at their own pace, explore their abilities in supportive environments, and choose their own paths when they're old enough." It was a philosophy they both agreed on, giving their children every opportunity while avoiding the trap of living vicariously through them or pushing them toward predetermined futures. The following month brought changes to their household routine. Hikari started attending a quirk training kindergarten 3 days a week, a program designed for children with developing quirks that combined regular early education with quirk control activities. On her first day, she was nervous and excited in equal measure. Izuku walked her to her classroom, her small hand gripping his tightly. "What if the other kids don't like me?" she asked quietly. "They're going to love you, sweetheart. You're kind and smart and you have excellent quirk control. Just be yourself." The teacher, a friendly woman named Tanaka-sensei, greeted them warmly. "You must be Hikari. We're so happy to have you join us." Izuku stayed for a few minutes, watching as Hikari cautiously approached a group of children playing with floating toys. Another child, a boy with a similar telekinetic quirk, invited her to join them. Within minutes, she was laughing and using her quirk to create patterns with the toys. "She'll be fine," Tanaka-sensei assured Izuku. "First days are always hard, but she's already making friends." Leaving the kindergarten, Izuku felt a pang of nostalgia. His daughter was growing up, becoming independent, making her own way in the world. It was what he wanted for her, but it was still bittersweet. At home, Mirko was entertaining Kaido while working on Hero Agency reports. She had increasingly been taking on administrative work that she could do from home, balancing her hero duties with parenting in a way that worked for their family. "How did drop-off go?" she asked when Izuku returned. She was nervous at first, but she's already making friends. "I think she's going to love it." "Of course she will. She's our daughter, she's got your analytical mind and my confidence. She'll thrive." With Hikari in kindergarten 3 days a week, their household dynamics shifted. Izuku found himself with more one-on-one time with Kaido, which allowed him to observe his son's quirk development more closely. Kaido was becoming increasingly verbal, his vocabulary expanding rapidly. But what was most interesting was how he verbalized his quirk usage. "Lock goes there," he would say, using his telekinesis to move a toy. "Same place as before." "That's right, buddy," Izuku would confirm. "You remember where it was." One afternoon, while Izuku was working in his home office with Kaido playing nearby, his son did something that made him pause his work entirely. Kaido had scattered his toys across the floor, but then he stopped and looked at them with intense focus. "Wrong," he said seriously. "All wrong." Then, using his quirk, he began rearranging the toys. But he wasn't just organizing them, he was putting them in a specific pattern. Cars in one area, sorted by size. Stuffed animals in another, arranged by color. Blocks stacked in order of size. It was eerily similar to how Izuku himself organized things. "Kaido, did you just organize your toys all by yourself?" Izuku asked, amazed. "Better this way," Kaido replied, satisfied with his work. "Everything in right place." Mirko came to investigate what Izuku was marveling at. When she saw the perfectly organized toys, she laughed. "He's definitely your son. That's pure Izuku Midoriya organizational instinct. Combined with your powerful quirk for actually implementing it," Izuku added. As autumn progressed toward winter, both children continued to develop rapidly. Hikari was thriving in her kindergarten, making friends and learning to use her quirk in creative ways. She would come home excited to demonstrate new techniques she had learned, like creating elaborate floating patterns or manipulating multiple objects simultaneously. Kaido was becoming more verbal and more intentional with his quirk usage. He could now articulate what he wanted to move and why, showing an understanding of spatial relationships that was remarkably advanced for his age. One evening, the family was having dinner when Hikari brought up something that had been on her mind. "Dada, Mama, am I going to be a hero when I grow up?" Izuku and Mirko exchanged glances. This was a conversation they had known would come eventually. "Do you want to be a hero?" Mirko asked carefully. Hikari thought about this seriously. "I don't know. The other kids at kindergarten talk about being heroes like their parents. But I also like learning about how things work, like Dada does." "You don't have to decide now," Izuku assured her. "You're only 4 years old. You have lots of time to figure out what you want to do with your life." "But what if I disappoint you if I don't become a hero like Mama?" Mirko immediately knelt beside Hikari's chair, taking her daughter's hands. "Listen to me very carefully, sweetheart. Mama is a hero because that's what I wanted to do with my life. It's my choice, my path. You get to choose your own path, and Dada and I will be proud of you no matter what you decide." "Really? Really?" Izuku confirmed. "If you want to be a hero, we'll support you completely. If you want to be a teacher, or a scientist, or an artist, or anything else, we'll support that just as much. What matters is that you're happy and doing something meaningful to you." Hikari seemed reassured by this. "Okay. I'll think about it." After dinner, while Mirko bathed the children, Izuku received a call from the Hero Commission. It was late for a work call, which immediately put him on alert. "Midoriya, we have a situation," the commission president said without preamble. "A villain organization has taken over a corporate headquarters in downtown Tokyo. They're holding approximately 50 hostages and demanding the release of several imprisoned villains. What do you need from me?" We need your strategic assessment immediately. This group is organized and professional. They've clearly planned this operation carefully. We're setting up a command center and need you there within the hour." Izuku's mind immediately went to his family. "I'll be there. Let me make arrangements for my children." After hanging up, he explained the situation to Mirko. "I'm sorry, I know this is sudden." "Oh," she said immediately. "This is important. I've got the kids. Just be safe and keep me updated." "I will. Thank you for understanding." He kissed both children goodnight, explaining to Hikari that Dada had to go help some heroes with an important problem. She hugged him tightly, making him promise to be careful. At the commission command center, Izuku was briefed on the situation. The villain group called themselves the Liberation Front, and they had executed a sophisticated takeover of a major tech company's headquarters. They had disabled communications, fortified their position, and demonstrated they were willing to harm hostages if their demands weren't met. "Show me the building schematics and everything we know about their positions," Izuku requested, his analytical mind already working through possibilities. For the next several hours, he worked with incident commanders to develop a strategic response plan. The building was complex, with multiple floors and areas where hostages might be held. The villains had clearly studied security protocols and knew how to exploit weaknesses. "We can't rush this," Izuku advised. "They're too well prepared. A direct assault will result in hostage casualties." "So what do you recommend?" the incident commander asked. "We need intelligence first. Deploy surveillance quirks to map their exact positions. Identify their leadership and communication methods. Find their weaknesses before we move." It went against a heroic instinct to act immediately, but Izuku knew that patience and planning would save lives. Over the next 6 hours, they gathered intelligence, built a detailed picture of the situation, and developed a multi-phase approach. Finally, at 3 in the morning, they were ready to execute. The plan involved a coordinated assault from multiple entry points, timed precisely to neutralize the villains before they could harm hostages. Izuku watched from the command center as heroes moved into position. His heart pounded as the operation began, knowing that his analysis and planning would directly impact whether people lived or died. The assault was precise and efficient. Heroes breached simultaneously, using the intelligence Izuku had provided to avoid traps and reach hostages quickly. Within 12 minutes, all villains were subdued and all hostages were safe. "Zero casualties, no serious injuries," the incident commander reported. "Complete success. Your planning was perfect, Midoriya." Izuku felt relief wash over him. It was a team effort. The heroes executed flawlessly. He arrived home as the sun was rising, exhausted but satisfied. Mirko was already awake, feeding Kaido his breakfast while watching the news coverage of the successful operation. "You did it again," she said, kissing him as he collapsed into a chair. "Saved the day with your brain. I'm just glad everyone made it out safely." "Ada." Hikari came running in, still in her pajamas. "I saw you on TV. They said you helped save all the people." "A lot of heroes work together to save those people, sweetheart. I just helped plan how to do it safely." "You're a hero too," she declared. "Even without a quirk, you save people. That makes you a hero." Her words, so simple and sincere, brought unexpected tears to Izuku's eyes. This was what he had always wanted: to make a difference, to save people, to be worthy of being called a hero even without a quirk. "Thank you, Hikari. That means more to me than you know." The successful hostage rescue operation raised Izuku's profile even further in the hero community. He received commendations from multiple agencies and was invited to consult on increasingly complex cases. But it also made him more conscious of the balance between his work and his family. Every operation that required late nights or emergency responses was time away from Mirko and the children. He began implementing stricter boundaries, delegating more to his team, and being selective about which cases required his direct involvement. One evening in early December, the family was decorating their home for the holidays. Hikari was using her quirk to hang ornaments on the Christmas tree, carefully positioning each one exactly where she thought it should go. Kaido was helping by using his own quirk to rearrange ornaments into what he deemed more organized patterns, which occasionally frustrated his sister. "Kaido, stop moving my ornaments," Hikari complained. "But they're in the wrong places," Kaido insisted with the serious logic of a toddler. "There is no wrong place for Christmas ornaments," Mirko told him gently. "Hikari is decorating creatively. You don't always have to organize everything." Izuku watched this exchange with amusement, seeing so much of himself in Kaido's need for order and organization. It was both endearing and a reminder that they would need to help him understand that not everything needed to be perfectly arranged. Later that evening, after both children were asleep, Izuku and Mirko sat together by the decorated tree, enjoying the peaceful moment. "I've been thinking about something," Mirko said. "About our family, our children, the future." "What about it?" "They're both going to face challenges we can't fully protect them from." Hikari will face expectations because her mother is a top hero. Kaido will face challenges because of his complex quirk. And both of them will grow up in a world that still has prejudices and problems. I know, Izuku said quietly. I think about that a lot. But they're also going to have something we didn't have growing up. They're going to have parents who understand struggle, who know what it's like to face obstacles, who can guide them through challenges with empathy and experience. You're right. We can't prevent all difficulties, but we can give them the tools to handle them. Exactly. And we can make sure they know, absolutely know, that they're loved unconditionally. That their worth isn't determined by their quirks or their achievements or other people's expectations. Izuku pulled Mirko closer. They're so lucky to have you as their mother. They're lucky to have both of us. We're a good team, Izuku. As the holidays approached, they made the decision to take a full week off from work, both of them, simultaneously. It was unprecedented for both of their careers, but they prioritized family time during this season. They spent the week doing simple things together. Visiting holiday markets, watching Hikari and Kaido play in the first snow of the season, baking cookies as a family, reading stories by the fireplace. No hero emergencies, no urgent cases, just quality time as a family. On Christmas morning, both children woke early, excited about presents. Hikari used her quirk to make wrapping paper float through the air in celebration, while Kaido organized his gifts by size before opening them. Best Christmas ever, Hikari declared, hugging the large stuffed hero figure she had received. Best Christmas, Kaido agreed, though he was more interested in the building set that would let him create and organize elaborate structures. Watching his children play with their gifts, their faces bright with joy, Izuku felt a profound sense of gratitude. His life had taken such an unexpected path from a quirkless kid who thought he could never be part of the hero world, to a respected analyst, to a husband and father. What are you thinking about? Mirko asked, coming to stand beside him. Just how far we've come. How much our lives have changed since that first interview. No regrets. Not a single one. This life, our family, everything we've built together, it's more than I ever dreamed was possible. Mirko leaned her head on his shoulder. Same here. Being a hero was my dream for so long, and I achieved that. But this, our family, our children, our life together, this is better than any hero ranking or achievement. As the year drew to a close, they reflected on everything that had happened. Hikari had started kindergarten and was thriving. Kaido's unique quirk abilities had been identified, and they were learning how to support his development. Their careers continued to flourish while they maintained the balance that made their family work. On New Year's Eve, after both children were asleep, Izuku and Mirko stood on their balcony watching fireworks light up the Tokyo sky. What do you want for the new year? Mirko asked. More of this, Izuku replied simply. More time with you and the kids, more moments of peace and joy, more opportunities to make a difference in the world, while keeping our family as the priority. That sounds perfect to me. As midnight approached and the city celebrated the new year, they kissed under the fireworks, two people who had found each other against all odds, and built something beautiful and lasting. The future would bring new challenges. Hikari would continue growing and developing, eventually having to decide about her own path. Kaido's complex quirk would require ongoing support and guidance. Their careers would present new opportunities and demands. But they would face it all together, as they always had. The family built on love, strengthened by challenges, and united in their commitment to supporting each other through whatever came next. And that, Izuku thought as he held his wife close while fireworks painted the sky, was the greatest success of all. Not the hero rankings or the solved cases or the saved lives, though those mattered. But this family, this love, this life they had created together. This was everything. The spring morning arrived with cherry blossoms drifting through the garden like pink snow. Izuku stood at the kitchen window, watching Hikari practice her quirk control in the backyard. At 5 years old, she had grown remarkably in both ability and confidence, her telekinetic precision now allowing her to manipulate dozens of objects simultaneously while maintaining distinct control over each one. Ada, watch this. She called and proceeded to make the falling cherry blossom petals dance in elaborate patterns through the air, weaving them into spirals and cascades that defied natural physics. That's incredible, sweetheart. Izuku called back, genuinely impressed. Her control had surpassed what most adults with similar quirks could achieve. Behind him, he heard the familiar sound of blocks being arranged with supernatural precision. Kaido, now 2 years old and increasingly verbal, sat in the living room constructing elaborate structures. What made it remarkable was that he was doing it entirely with his quirk, his small hands clasped together while blocks floated and assembled themselves according to some pattern only he could perceive. Our needs to be exactly 32 blocks high, Kaido announced seriously. That's the right number for structural integrity. Izuku exchanged an amused glance with Mirko, who had just emerged from their bedroom dressed in her hero costume, ready for morning patrol. He's 2 years old and talking about structural integrity, Mirko said, shaking her head with fond exasperation. He's definitely your son. He gets the analytical thinking from me, but the ability to actually implement it comes from your powerful quirk, Izuku countered. He's the best of both of us. Mirko moved closer, adjusting her costume while checking her phone for agency updates. Speaking of which, I got a message from UA this morning. Principal Nezu wants to meet with us. Both of us? Did he say what about? No details, just requested we come in sometime this week to discuss something regarding our family. Mirko looked concerned. You don't think there's a problem, do you? With Nezu, it could be anything. But he wouldn't ask for both of us unless it was important. Izuku pulled out his own phone. I'll message him and see if we can set up a meeting for tomorrow afternoon. After Mirko left for patrol and Hikari was picked up by the kindergarten bus, Izuku settled into his home office with Kaido playing nearby. The toddler had become remarkably independent, content to spend hours arranging and rearranging objects in patterns that he found satisfying. Izuku's work that morning involved reviewing intelligence on a new villain group that had appeared in Western Japan. They called themselves the Equilibrium, and their operations showed a level of strategic sophistication that concerned him. Unlike typical villain groups motivated by chaos or profit, the Equilibrium seemed to have ideological goals related to balancing hero society. He was deep in analysis when Kaido's voice interrupted him. Ada, the world is wrong. Izuku looked up, startled by the serious tone in his 2-year-old's voice. What do you mean, buddy? Kaido gestured at his blocks, which he had arranged in a complex 3-dimensional pattern. Everything has a right place, a right order. But people don't see it. They put things in wrong places and make chaos. It was an unsettlingly mature observation from someone so young. Izuku set aside his work and knelt beside his son. The world can be messy sometimes, he agreed gently. But that's okay. Not everything needs to be perfectly organized. But it's better when things are in the right places, Kaido insisted. More efficient. More correct. Izuku recognized the rigid thinking patterns he had struggled with similar tendencies himself, the overwhelming need to organize and structure everything. The difference was that Kaido had a quirk that let him actually impose that order on the physical world. You know what I learned? Izuku said carefully. Sometimes the wrong way is actually interesting and creative. Like how Hikari decorates with her quirk, she doesn't worry about perfect patterns, she just makes things beautiful in her own way. Kaido considered this seriously. Hikari's way is different. Not wrong, just different from optimal. Exactly. And different isn't bad. It's just different. It was a conversation they would need to revisit many times, Izuku knew. Helping Kaido understand that his analytical, order-seeking mind was a strength but didn't need to be applied to everything would be an ongoing challenge. That evening, the family had dinner together, a ritual they protected fiercely despite busy schedules. Hikari dominated the conversation as usual, excitedly recounting her day at kindergarten. We had quirk control exercises today, and Tanaka-sensei said I have the best precision in the whole class. She announced proudly. I made 20 pencils all right at the same time. That's wonderful, sweetheart, Mirko praised. What did you write? My name over and over, in different colors. Tanaka-sensei said it was very creative. Did you make any new friends? Izuku asked. Hikari's expression became more thoughtful. There's a new boy in class named Koda. He has a water quirk, and some of the other kids were teasing him because it's not a strong quirk for hero work. Mirko's expression immediately sharpened. What kind of teasing? They said water quirks are weak and boring. But I told them they were wrong. Hikari declared fiercely. I said quirks aren't about being strong or weak, they're about how you use them. That's what Dada always says. Izuku felt a swell of pride. That's exactly right. What did the other kids say? They stopped teasing him after I said that. And Koda and I played together at recess. He showed me how he can make water shapes, and I showed him how I can make patterns with my quirk. We're friends now. I'm very proud of you for standing up for someone, Mirko said warmly. That takes courage and kindness. After dinner, while Mirko bathed both children, Izuku received a response from Principal Nezu, confirming a meeting for the following afternoon. The message was characteristically brief and gave no hints about the purpose. The next day, they arranged for Sato-san to watch both children and headed to UA together. Walking through the halls of the prestigious hero school always gave Izuku a mixture of nostalgia and pride. Nostalgia for the dreams he'd once had of attending as a student, pride that he now contributed to the school's mission in his own way. Principal Nezu greeted them in his office with his characteristic enigmatic smile. Ah, Midoriya-san, Mirko-san, thank you for coming. Please, sit down. Once they were settled, Nezu got straight to the point. I've asked you here to discuss an unusual opportunity regarding your daughter, Hikari. Izuku and Mirko exchanged glances. What kind of opportunity? Mirko asked. As you know, UA has traditionally only accepted students beginning at age 15 for our hero course. However, we've recently received authorization to pilot a program for exceptional young students, a preparatory academy for children ages 6 to 14 who show remarkable quirk abilities and aptitude for hero work. Do you want Hikari for this program? Izuku asked, his analytical mind immediately considering implications. We believe she would be an ideal candidate. Her quirk control is exceptional for her age, she demonstrates leadership qualities and empathy, and based on reports from her kindergarten, she has a natural instinct for helping others. Nezu pulled out a tablet showing documentation. The program would provide advanced quirk training, tactical education, and hero theory, while still maintaining regular academic studies appropriate for her age. She's only 5 years old, Mirko pointed out. Isn't this pushing her toward hero work before she's old enough to make the choice herself? An excellent concern, Nezu acknowledged. Which is why the program is designed to be exploratory rather than committal. Students can leave at any time, and participation doesn't guarantee or require eventual enrollment in UA's hero course. It's simply an opportunity for advanced education for children who show aptitude. Can we think about it? Izuku asked. This is a major decision that would affect Hikari's entire childhood. Of course. I'm not asking for an immediate answer. Take time to discuss it as a family, research the program, even talk to Hikari about her own feelings. Nezu's expression became more serious. I should mention that we're only extending this invitation to a select few students. Hikari is genuinely exceptional. On the drive home, Izuku and Mirko were both quiet, processing what they'd learned. What do you think? Mirko finally asked. I think it's an incredible opportunity, Izuku said carefully. But I'm also worried about the pressure it might put on her. She's 5 years old. She should be playing and learning and having fun, not being fast-tracked into hero training. But she loves using her quirk. She's always asking to practice, always wanting to learn new techniques. Maybe this would be good for her. Maybe. Or maybe it would steal her childhood and push her toward a path she might not actually want. Izuku sighed. We need to talk to her about it. Really talk to her, not as parents pushing an agenda, but genuinely asking what she wants. That evening, after Kaido was asleep, they sat down with Hikari in her room. Sweetheart, we need to talk to you about something important, Izuku began. Hikari set down the toy she'd been playing with, her expression becoming serious. Am I in trouble? No, nothing like that, Mirko assured her. We have an opportunity to tell you about, but it's a big decision, and we want to know what you think. They explained the UA preparatory program as simply as they could, emphasizing that it was about learning and training, and that she could stop at any time if she didn't like it. Would I get to use my quirk more? Hikari asked. Yes, you'd have special classes to help you develop your quirk abilities, Izuku confirmed. Would I still see my friends from kindergarten? The program would be a few days a week, so you'd still have time for your regular school and friends, Mirko explained. Hikari thought about this carefully, her young face showing concentration. Can I ask a question? Of course, sweetheart. If I do this program, does it mean I have to be a hero like Mama when I grow up? Izuku's heart clenched at the question. Absolutely not. This program is just about learning and practicing with your quirk. When you grow up, you can be whatever you want to be, a hero, a teacher, an artist, anything. This doesn't decide your future. And if I start and don't like it, I can stop. Anytime you want, Mirko confirmed. No pressure, no expectations. Just trying something new. Hikari nodded slowly. Then. I think I want to try it. It sounds fun to learn more about my quirk. But if it's not fun, I want to stop. That's perfectly reasonable, Izuku agreed. We'll try it, and if it doesn't work for you, we'll stop immediately. They informed Nezu of their decision the next day, with the caveat that Hikari's happiness and well-being took absolute priority over any training or advancement. The principal agreed completely, emphasizing that the program's entire philosophy centered on nurturing young students, rather than pushing them. The preparatory program would begin in the fall, giving them the summer to prepare. In the meantime, life continued its usual patterns: Mirko's hero work, Izuku's strategic analysis and teaching, caring for both children, and managing their household. One afternoon in late May, Izuku was working from home when he received an urgent call from the Hero Commission. Midoriya, we have a developing crisis, the commission president said. The Equilibrium group you've been tracking has just released a manifesto and issued a challenge to Hero Society. What kind of challenge? They're claiming they'll expose what they call the fundamental corruption of Hero Society through a series of coordinated actions over the next month. They're calling it the rebalancing. Izuku felt a chill run through him. This was exactly the kind of ideologically motivated operation that was most dangerous. Send me everything you have. I'll begin immediate analysis. He spent the next several hours reviewing the Equilibrium's manifesto and all available intelligence. Their ideology was complex, arguing that hero society had become corrupt through commercialization, that heroes were more concerned with rankings and publicity than actual justice, and that the system needed to be rebalanced through exposure and reformation. What made them particularly dangerous was their sophistication. Unlike typical villain groups, they weren't interested in simple destruction or chaos. They wanted to undermine public faith in heroes through calculated actions that would expose weaknesses and failures in the hero system. "This is bad," he told Mirko that evening. "They're not just criminals, they're ideologues with a comprehensive plan. And some of their criticisms of hero society aren't entirely wrong, which could give them public sympathy. What's their first move going to be? Based on their patterns and the manifesto language, I think they're going to target a hero or agency with documented problems: corruption, abuse of power, something that will make headlines and validate their message." Over the next week, Izuku worked intensively with the commission to identify potential targets and develop defensive strategies. It was challenging work because the Equilibrium wasn't wrong about some of their criticisms. There were corrupt heroes, agencies that prioritize profit over protection, and systemic problems in hero society. The Equilibrium's first action came on a Tuesday afternoon. They released detailed documentation of a mid-ranking hero who had been taking bribes from wealthy civilians for preferential protection. The evidence was irrefutable: videos, financial records, testimony from victims who had been ignored because they couldn't pay. The hero was immediately suspended and arrested, but the damage to public trust was significant. Social media exploded with discussions about hero corruption, and the Equilibrium gained public attention and even some support. "They're winning the narrative," Izuku told the commission leadership. "We can't just play defense. We need to proactively address the legitimate issues they're highlighting." "What do you suggest?" the commission president asked. "Transparency. Announce reforms, stricter oversight of hero activities, consequences for corruption. Show the public that we take these issues seriously and are actively working to fix them." It was a risky strategy, essentially admitting that the Equilibrium's criticisms had merit. But Izuku believed it was the only way to undermine their narrative while actually improving the hero system. The commission was divided on the approach, but eventually agreed to implement some of Izuku's recommendations. They announced a comprehensive review of hero oversight procedures and established a public accountability office for reporting hero misconduct. Meanwhile, at home, Izuku was trying to maintain normalcy for his family, despite the crisis consuming his work life. Hikari was excited about starting the UA preparatory program in the fall and had begun asking more questions about hero work. "Ada, why do some people not like heroes?" she asked one evening. "Well, sweetheart, most people appreciate heroes and the work they do protecting others. But sometimes, heroes make mistakes or do bad things, and that makes people lose trust. Like the hero on the news who took money." Izuku was impressed that she was paying attention to current events, even filtered through the child-appropriate news sources they allowed. "Exactly like that. That hero broke the rules and hurt people's trust." "But Mama would never do that," Hikari said with absolute certainty. "No, she wouldn't. Mama is a true hero who cares about helping people, not about money or fame." "I want to be like Mama," Hikari declared. "A real hero who helps people." Later, when both children were asleep, Izuku shared this conversation with Mirko. "She's so certain about wanting to be a hero," he said. "I worry that we're unconsciously influencing her because of your career." "I worry about that too," Mirko admitted. "But I also think we're overthinking it. She's 5 years old. Right now she wants to be a hero because that's what she understands and admires. In 2 years she might want to be a veterinarian or a teacher or anything else. We just have to make sure she knows all those options are equally valid." The Equilibrium struck again the following week, this time exposing a hero agency that had been falsifying response times to maintain their rankings. Again, the evidence was detailed and irrefutable. Another scandal, another blow to public trust in heroes. Izuku worked around the clock analyzing their methods, trying to predict their next move. The pattern was clear: they were targeting specific, verifiable instances of corruption to build a case that the entire hero system was fundamentally flawed. "We need to get ahead of this," he told his team. "They're going to keep finding legitimate problems because those problems exist. We need to find them first and address them proactively." It was exhausting work, made more difficult by the resistance from some within the hero community who didn't want to acknowledge systemic issues. But gradually, reforms began to take shape: better oversight, stricter accountability, genuine consequences for hero misconduct. One night, working late in his home office, Izuku was startled by a small voice. "Ada, why are you always working?" He turned to find Hikari standing in the doorway in her pajamas, her stuffed rabbit clutched in her arms. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. Did I wake you?" "No, I just couldn't sleep." She came into the office and climbed into his lap. "You're working on the bad people, right? The ones who don't like heroes." I'm working on making sure heroes are the best they can be, so people can trust them. Hikari was quiet for a moment, then asked, is being a hero hard? Being a good hero is very hard, Izuku answered honestly. It means always trying to do the right thing, helping people even when it's difficult, and being honest and good even when no one is watching. Mama does that. Yes, she does. Your mama is one of the best heroes I know. Are you a hero too, Dada? The question caught Izuku off guard. I don't have a quirk, and I don't fight villains like Mama does. But you help people. You make things better and safer. That sounds like a hero to me. From the mouth of his 5-year-old daughter, it was the highest praise he could imagine. He hugged her close, feeling emotion well up. Thank you, sweetheart. That means everything to me. He carried her back to bed, tucking her in and staying until she fell asleep. When he returned to his office, he felt renewed purpose. This work mattered not for recognition or advancement, but because it genuinely helped people and made the hero system better. The Equilibrium's campaign continued through June, each revelation carefully chosen to maximize impact. But the Commission's proactive reforms were beginning to shift public perception. People saw that hero society was taking the criticism seriously and making genuine changes. By July, when the Equilibrium attempted to release their 5th expose, this time targeting a hero who had already been suspended following an internal review, the public reaction was muted. The hero system had gotten ahead of the problem, demonstrating that it could police itself and improve. The Equilibrium's final action was a public statement acknowledging that their campaign had achieved its goal of forcing hero society to confront its problems. They announced they would cease operations, having rebalanced the system sufficiently. It was an unusual ending to a villain campaign, not with arrests and dramatic confrontation, but with ideological victory and voluntary withdrawal. The Commission was torn between relief that the crisis was over and frustration that the Equilibrium had never been apprehended. They got what they wanted, Izuku explained during a debriefing. They forced systemic change. Trying to arrest them now would risk making them martyrs and undoing the reforms we've implemented. So we just let them go? A Commission official asked skeptically. We maintain surveillance and remain ready if they resurface. But the best outcome here is the one we got: meaningful reform without violence or destruction. Sometimes winning means adapting rather than defeating. It was a nuanced conclusion that not everyone agreed with, but it represented how Izuku had evolved in his thinking about hero work and villain responses. Sometimes the categories weren't as clear-cut as heroes versus villains. Sometimes there were legitimate grievances that needed addressing. As summer progressed, family life provided welcome relief from work stress. They took a week-long vacation to the beach, both Izuku and Mirko, completely disconnecting from their professional responsibilities. Hikari loved the ocean, using her quirk to create patterns with water droplets and shells. Kaido was fascinated by the sand, spending hours arranging it into geometrically precise structures that defied the random nature of beach sand. "They built a perfect scale model of our house," Mirko observed one afternoon, looking at Kaido's sand creation. "Complete with accurate proportions and window placements. He's 2 years old. He has an extraordinary spatial memory and processing ability," Izuku agreed. "We need to make sure he's challenged appropriately as he grows, or he's going to be bored and frustrated." One evening, watching the sunset over the ocean with both children playing nearby and Mirko's hand in his, Izuku felt profound contentment. This was what mattered, these moments of peace and connection with the people he loved most. "What are you thinking about?" Mirko asked, recognizing his contemplative expression. "Just how grateful I am for all of this. For you, for our children, for the life we've built together. Even with all the chaos and challenges. Especially with the chaos and challenges. They make the peaceful moments like this even more precious." As fall approached and Hikari prepared to start the UA preparatory program, they sat down with her again to make sure she was still comfortable with the decision. "I'm excited," she said confidently. "I want to learn more about my quirk and maybe make new friends who can do cool things too. And you remember, if at any point you don't like it or want to stop, you just tell us and we'll pull you out immediately," Izuku reminded her. "I know, Dada. You've told me like 100 times. Mirko laughed. "She's got your number." The first day of the program arrived with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The UA Preparatory Academy was located in a separate building on the UA campus, designed specifically for younger students. The facility was impressive: quirk training rooms, regular classrooms, recreational areas, all sized appropriately for children ages 6 to 14. Hikari's class had 12 students, all around her age, all with developing quirks that showed exceptional potential. The instructor was a kind woman named Yamamoto-sensei who had extensive experience with young quirk users. "We're going to have so much fun learning together," she told the assembled children and parents. "This program is about exploration and discovery, not pressure or competition. Each of you is here because you're special, and we're going to help you understand and develop your unique abilities." Izuku and Mirko stayed for the first hour, observing as the children introduced themselves and demonstrated their quirks. There was a wide variety: elemental quirks, physical enhancement, mental abilities, and several others like Hikari with telekinetic powers. When it was Hikari's turn to demonstrate, she created an elaborate floating sculpture using various small objects in the classroom, arranging them into a detailed replica of a flower. The other students and instructor were visibly impressed. "That's remarkable control," Yamamoto-sensei praised. "How long have you been practicing with your quirk?" "Since I was about 1 year old," Hikari replied. "My parents helped me learn control early." As they prepared to leave, Hikari hugged both parents but showed no reluctance to stay. She was already chatting with another student about their quirks and finding common interests. "She's going to be fine," Mirko said as they walked back to their car. "More than fine, she's going to thrive." "I know," Izuku agreed. "I just worry. Is that ever going to stop?" "Probably not. I think worrying about our kids is just part of being a parent." That afternoon, while Hikari was at her program, Izuku had a meeting at the commission to discuss a new assignment. The equilibrium situation had demonstrated his ability to handle complex ideological threats, and now he was being asked to develop a comprehensive strategy for identifying and addressing similar groups before they became problems. "We want to be proactive rather than reactive," the commission president explained. "Your work on the equilibrium showed that sometimes the best response to ideological villains is addressing their legitimate grievances rather than just fighting them." It was a significant expansion of his responsibilities, but also an opportunity to genuinely improve hero society. Izuku accepted the assignment, already thinking through frameworks and methodologies. When he picked up Hikari from her first day at the preparatory program, she was buzzing with excitement. "Ada, it was amazing. We learned about quirk theory and did control exercises, and I made 2 new friends, and Yamamoto-sensei said my precision is exceptional, and we're going to do team exercises next week." Her enthusiasm was infectious, and Izuku felt his worries about the program ease. She was genuinely enjoying it, learning and growing, and still clearly the same happy child she'd always been. At home, Kaido had spent the day with Sato-san and had apparently organized every single toy in the house, according to some elaborate system only he understood. "I tried to redirect him to other activities," Sato-san explained apologetically. "But he was very determined about his organizing project." "It's okay," Izuku assured her. "That's just how he processes the world. As long as he's happy and not getting frustrated, let him organize to his heart's content." That evening at dinner, Hikari excitedly told Kaido all about her first day at the program, describing the other students and what she'd learned. Kaido listened with his characteristic serious attention, occasionally asking surprisingly insightful questions. "Did you learn the theoretical basis for telekinetic quirk mechanics?" he asked at one point. Hikari blinked at her 2-year-old brother. We learned about control in practice." "Control without understanding theory is inefficient," Kaido declared. "You should learn the physics." "He's 2 years old and talking about physics and theoretical basis," Mirko said to Izuku. "This is your fault." "My fault? He gets the powerful quirk from you. But the need to understand everything theoretically? That's pure Izuku Midoriya." As fall progressed, their family settled into new routines. Hikari attended the preparatory program 3 days a week and regular kindergarten 2 days a week, thriving in both environments. Kaido continued his systematic exploration of the world, his quirk control and analytical abilities developing in tandem. Izuku's work on ideological villain groups was progressing, and he was developing frameworks that the commission was beginning to implement across Japan. Mirko had been promoted to rank 6 nationally, recognition of her consistent excellent performance as a hero. One evening in October, after both children were asleep, Izuku and Mirko sat together in the garden watching the koi swim in the pond. The air was crisp with autumn chill, and they huddled together under a shared blanket. "Do you ever think about how different our lives could have been?" Mirko asked. "If you hadn't answered that job posting, or if I'd hired someone else." "Sometimes," Izuku admitted. "But I can't really imagine any other path anymore. This feels like it was always meant to be. Fate? Maybe. Or maybe just 2 people finding each other at exactly the right time and building something beautiful together." Mirko leaned her head on his shoulder. "I like that better than fate. It gives us credit for the work we've put into this relationship and family." "We have put in a lot of work," Izuku agreed. "But it's never felt like a burden." "No, it hasn't. Even the hard parts have been worth it." They sat in comfortable silence, both reflecting on their journey. 5 years since that first interview, 4 years since they'd started dating, 3 years of marriage, 2 beautiful children, and countless challenges overcome together. "What do you think the next 5 years will bring?" Izuku asked. "Hikari will be 10, probably well into the preparatory program if she continues with it. Kaido will be 7 and likely starting his own quirk education. Our careers will keep evolving. More challenges, more growth, more of life happening." Mirko paused. What do you think? I think as long as we face it together, we can handle whatever comes. That's what we've always done. Together, Mirko agreed, squeezing his hand. That's the secret to all of this. We're a team, always have been. As they headed inside, Izuku checked on both children one more time before bed. Hikari was sleeping peacefully, her stuffed rabbit clutched close. Kaido had arranged his stuffed animals in precise patterns around his bed, finding comfort and order even in sleep. Their children were growing, developing into their own unique people with their own strengths and challenges. Hikari with her exceptional quirk control and natural leadership, Kaido with his analytical mind and need for systematic understanding. Both of them loved and supported, given opportunities while being protected from excessive pressure. It wasn't a perfect family, perfection was impossible. But it was their family, built on love and strengthened by commitment, navigating the complexities of hero society while maintaining the values that mattered most. And that, Izuku thought as he settled into bed beside Mirko, was more than enough. It was everything. The winter morning arrived with frost covering the garden, transforming their carefully tended landscape into a crystalline wonderland. Izuku stood at the kitchen window watching Hikari, now 6 years old, practice her quirk control with Kaido observing intently. She was making intricate patterns in the frost on the garden furniture, creating elaborate designs that seemed to shift and evolve as she concentrated. Hikari, your thermal manipulation is improving, Kaido observed seriously, his 3-year-old voice carrying the analytical tone he'd inherited from his father. But you're expending 14% more energy than necessary for that pattern complexity. I'm not trying to be efficient, Kaido, Hikari replied with the patience of an older sister who'd grown accustomed to her brother's constant analysis. I'm trying to make it beautiful. Beauty and efficiency aren't mutually exclusive, Kaido countered, already using vocabulary that would have been impressive for a child twice his age. Izuku smiled at the exchange. His children were remarkable in such different ways, Hikari, with her creative application of exceptional quirk control, Kaido, with his systematic understanding of how everything worked. They challenged each other constantly, and somehow it made both of them stronger. Mirko emerged from the bedroom already dressed in her hero costume, checking her phone for agency updates. Her expression was tense, which immediately put Izuku on alert. What's wrong? There's been a development with a case I've been working on. A villain with a cognitive manipulation quirk has been targeting children at quirk development programs. Mirko's jaw tightened. 3 kids from different facilities across Tokyo have been affected over the past month. Their quirks are being twisted, corrupted somehow. They're developing psychological trauma associated with their abilities. Izuku felt a chill that had nothing to do with the winter cold. Hikari's program? Not yet, but it's only a matter of time before this villain expands their target list. UA's preparatory academy would be a high-value target, lots of children with powerful developing quirks in one location. Have you briefed UA security? That's my first stop this morning. I wanted to let you know before I left. Mirko hesitated. We might need to consider pulling Hikari from the program temporarily until this threat is neutralized. It was a reasonable precaution, but Izuku knew how much the program meant to Hikari. She had thrived over the past 6 months, making close friends and developing her abilities in ways that delighted her. Let's see what UA's security assessment is first, Izuku suggested. They have extensive protection protocols for the preparatory academy. And maybe I can help with analysis, tracking patterns in the attacks, predicting where this villain might strike next. I was hoping you'd offer, Mirko said, relief evident in her voice. The commission is already requesting your involvement. This quirk manipulation ability is unlike anything we've dealt with before. After Mirko left for UA, Izuku got both children ready for their respective days. Hikari would be attending the preparatory program as scheduled, though Izuku would be accompanying her and staying for the security briefing. Kaido would spend the day with Sato-san, their nanny, who had become an integral part of their household. Dada, is something wrong? Hikari asked as they drove to UA. She had developed a keen sensitivity to her parents' moods, reading subtle cues most children her age would miss. There's a bad person who has been hurting children by affecting their quirks, Izuku explained carefully. He and Mirko had always been honest with their children, believing that age-appropriate truth was better than comforting lies. The heroes are working to catch this person, and UA is making sure everyone at your program stays extra safe. Will the bad person come to UA? UA has very strong security and lots of heroes protecting students. You're safer there than almost anywhere else in Japan. Hikari processed this information with her characteristic thoughtfulness. If the bad person tries to hurt my friends, I'll protect them with my quirk. Izuku felt both pride and concern at his daughter's declaration. Your job is to be safe and let the adult heroes handle any dangers. Promise me? I promise, Dada. But if my friends need help and no adults are there, I'm going to help them. That's what heroes do. It was exactly what Izuku would have said at her age, that unwavering conviction that helping people mattered more than personal safety. He understood it completely, even as it terrified him. At UA, the security briefing was comprehensive. Principal Nezu had assembled the preparatory academy staff, security personnel, and several pro heroes including Mirko. Izuku was invited to participate given his expertise in threat analysis. The villain calls themselves Distortion, Nezu began, displaying information on a large screen. Their quirk appears to allow them to alter how other people's quirks function, introducing what we're calling cognitive dissonance. The quirk still works, but using it causes severe psychological distress. How are they accessing their targets? Izuku asked, studying the incident reports. That's the concerning part. In each case, the victim had no direct contact with anyone suspicious. The running theory is that distortion can affect people at a distance or through some intermediary method we haven't identified yet. Izuku reviewed the files carefully. 3 victims, ages 5 to 8, all with developing quirks. After exposure to distortion's ability, using their quirks caused intense anxiety, fear, and in one case, actual physical pain despite no physiological cause. The pattern suggests they're testing their ability on increasingly powerful quirks, Izuku observed. The first victim had a minor enhancement quirk. The second had elemental manipulation. The third had a strong telekinetic ability similar to Hikari's. The room fell silent at that observation. Everyone understood the implication. Hikari and other students at the preparatory program were likely targets. We're implementing enhanced security protocols immediately, Nezu announced. No one enters the academy facility without passing through quirk detection screening. All staff will be monitored continuously. Students will be escorted between classes in groups, never allowed to be isolated. What about identifying distortion before they strike? Mirko asked. Reactive security is good, but we need to find and neutralize this villain. That's where Midoriya-san's expertise becomes crucial, Nezu said. We need predictive analysis. Where will distortion strike next, and how can we set up conditions to catch them? Izuku spent the rest of the morning at UA, working with security to analyze attack patterns and develop a predictive model. The 3 incidents had occurred at different quirk development facilities across Tokyo, seemingly random. But Izuku knew that random was rarely truly random. There were always patterns if you looked carefully enough. He mapped the incidents geographically, temporally, and by victim characteristics. Slowly, a picture began to emerge. The facilities weren't random, they were progressively higher profile, moving from small private programs to larger institutional facilities. And the victims represented escalating quirk power levels. They're building towards something, Izuku explained to the assembled security team. Testing their ability on increasingly powerful quirks at increasingly secure locations. UA's preparatory academy represents the highest profile, most secure facility with the most powerful young quirk users. It's the logical culmination of their pattern. So we're definitely a target, Yamamoto-sensei, Hikari's instructor, said quietly. Almost certainly. But knowing that gives us an advantage. We can prepare, set traps, coordinate with hero agencies to have rapid response ready. Over the next week, UA became a fortress. Security was omnipresent but subtle, designed not to frighten the young students while providing comprehensive protection. Heroes patrolled the grounds in shifts, quirk detection equipment was installed at every entry point, and strict protocols governed every aspect of the academy's operations. Hikari noticed the changes but seemed unconcerned. If anything, she was fascinated by the security measures, asking questions about how different detection quirks worked and why certain protocols were implemented. If someone can change how quirks work, does that mean quirks aren't really part of us? She asked one evening. Like, if they can be changed, maybe they're separate from who we are. It was a surprisingly philosophical question from a 6-year-old, but that was Hikari constantly thinking beyond the surface level. I think quirks are part of us, but they don't define us, Izuku answered carefully. Your quirk is an ability you have, but you're still you with or without it. The important part's your kindness, your intelligence, your creativity. Those exist regardless of your quirk. Like how you don't have a quirk, but you're still amazing and help people. Exactly like that. At home, Kaido was processing the situation in his own analytical way. He had overheard enough conversations to understand that someone dangerous was targeting children like Hikari, and he'd become noticeably more protective of his sister. Hikari needs optimal safety protocols, he announced one morning at breakfast. I've calculated that her current routine has 17 potential vulnerability points. Kaido, I'm fine, Hikari assured him. UA is super safe, and Dada and Mama are making sure nothing bad happens. Safety protocols should account for low probability high impact scenarios, Kaido insisted. You should carry a personal emergency beacon, maintain awareness of all exits in any room, and never deviate from established safe routes. Mirko hid a smile behind her coffee cup. Your brother has been watching too many of Dada's security briefings. He's not wrong about being careful, Izuku said. Though maybe we can phrase it in a less tactical way for a 6-year-old. The break came 2 weeks into the enhanced security. Izuku was reviewing surveillance footage from various quirk development facilities, looking for anyone who appeared at multiple locations. It was painstaking work, comparing hours of footage across dozens of facilities. And then he found it. A delivery person who had been present at all 3 locations where attacks occurred, appearing in footage from the day before each incident. Different delivery companies, different uniforms, but the same person, a woman with distinctive facial features that no amount of disguise could completely hide. "I've got something," he told the commission immediately, sending over his findings. Within hours, they had identified her. Ayako Tanaka, age 34, formerly a quirk researcher who had been dismissed from her position 3 years ago after ethics violations. She had developed a theory about quirk malleability that her institution had rejected as dangerous and unethical. "She's been testing her theory," Izuku explained during an emergency briefing. "Using children as test subjects to prove that quirks can be fundamentally altered. It's not about causing harm, it's about proving she was right." "That doesn't make it better," Mirko said darkly. "No, but it tells us her mindset. She's not a traditional villain seeking chaos or profit. She's a scientist conducting unauthorized experiments. That gives us leverage for prediction and negotiation." They traced Tanaka's current location to a small apartment in a working-class neighborhood. The commission coordinated with local heroes for a careful apprehension operation. Izuku advised against an aggressive raid. Someone with her mindset might have contingencies that could trigger widespread quirk disruption. Instead, they used subterfuge. A team posed as representatives from a quirk research foundation, claiming they wanted to discuss her theories. Tanaka, desperate for academic validation, agreed to meet. The meeting was a setup. Heroes waited nearby while a commission negotiator engaged Tanaka in conversation, keeping her distracted, while a hero with a nullification quirk neutralized her ability. The apprehension was clean and nonviolent. During interrogation, Tanaka was surprisingly cooperative, eager to explain her research. She had indeed been testing her theory of quirk malleability, though she seemed genuinely surprised that her experiments had caused psychological trauma. "I was just demonstrating that quirks aren't fixed," she insisted. "That they can be altered and optimized. The discomfort was an unintended side effect." "You experimented on children without consent," the interrogator pointed out. "That's not research, it's abuse." Tanaka's expression showed confusion rather than remorse. "But the knowledge gained. Surely that justifies temporary discomfort." It was a chilling reminder that some people could rationalize anything in pursuit of their goals. Tanaka genuinely believed she was conducting important research, unable or unwilling to recognize the harm she'd caused. With Tanaka in custody, the immediate threat ended. The children she'd affected were referred to specialists who could help them recover their comfortable relationship with their quirks. Security at quirk development facilities remained elevated but gradually returned to normal levels. Hikari was relieved when UA's academy returned to its regular routine. "The extra security was kind of cool at first," she admitted. "But it made everything feel scary. I like it better when we can just learn and play." The incident had lasting effects on Izuku's work with the commission. He was asked to develop protocols for identifying and addressing similar threats, individuals with dangerous quirk research theories who might use unethical methods to prove their ideas. "There's a fine line between legitimate quirk research and dangerous experimentation," he explained during a presentation to commission leadership. "We need better oversight of quirk research, especially studies involving children, while still allowing scientific advancement." It was complex work that required balancing innovation with protection, scientific freedom with ethical responsibility. Izuku threw himself into developing comprehensive frameworks, drawing on expertise from quirk researchers, ethicists, and hero agencies. At home, life continued with its usual chaos. Kaido, now 3.5, had developed an obsession with understanding how everything worked. He would disassemble toys to examine their mechanisms, then use his quirk to reassemble them with modifications he thought were improvements. Kaido turned his toy car into a robot, Sato-san reported one afternoon. "I have no idea how he did it, but it walks around the living room now making beeping sounds." "That's impressive," Izuku said, examining his son's creation. The toy car had indeed been transformed into a walking, beeping robot through some combination of creative disassembly and quirk-powered reassembly. "Kaido, this is very clever, but you should ask before modifying toys, okay?" "The original design was inefficient," Kaido explained seriously. "Walking provides better mobility than wheels in varied terrain." "He's 3 years old and talking about mobility optimization," Mirko observed that evening. "Should we be concerned?" "As long as he's happy and not frustrated, I think it's fine. He's just processing the world through systematic understanding. It's how his brain works. Like father, like son." Hikari's development continued to impress her instructors at the preparatory academy. Yamamoto-sensei requested a meeting with Izuku and Mirko to discuss her progress. "Hikari is exceptional," the teacher began. "Her quirk control is at a level we typically see in students 4 or 5 years older. But more than that, she has a natural instinct for using her abilities to help others. Is that a concern? Mirko asked. Not a concern exactly, but something to be aware of. She gravitates toward leadership roles in group exercises and is often the first to volunteer to help other students who are struggling. Yamamoto-sensei paused. She has all the qualities that would make her an excellent hero. But I want to make sure that path is what she actually wants, not just what she thinks is expected of her. We've been very careful not to push her toward hero work, Izuku said. We always emphasize that she has choices. I know, and I can see that in how she talks about her future. She mentions lots of different possibilities. I just wanted to touch base because the program is designed to support whatever path students choose, and I want to make sure we're supporting Hikari appropriately. They discussed strategies for nurturing Hikari's abilities while keeping options open, ensuring she felt free to explore different interests without feeling locked into hero training. That evening, Izuku and Mirko had a serious conversation about their daughter's future. She's so talented, Mirko said. Part of me wants to encourage her toward hero work because I know she'd be incredible at it. But another part of you doesn't want her to face the dangers and challenges that come with being a hero, Izuku finished. Exactly. Is that selfish? Am I projecting my own fears onto her future? I think it's normal parent protectiveness. We know what the hero world is really like, the dangers, the pressure, the toll it takes. Of course we'd want to protect her from that if we could. But we can't make her decisions for her. No, Izuku agreed. All we can do is give her information, support, and the freedom to choose. If she decides to be a hero, we support that. If she decides on something else, we support that equally. As winter progressed towards spring, both children continued developing in their unique ways. Hikari remained engaged with the preparatory program, her social circle expanding, and her quirk abilities growing stronger. Kaido's analytical tendencies intensified, his room becoming filled with disassembled objects he was studying to understand their mechanisms. One afternoon, Izuku received an unexpected call from All Might. The retired hero hadn't contacted him in several months, so the call immediately commanded attention. Young Midoriya, I hope I'm not interrupting, All Might began in his true form's raspy voice. Not at all. It's good to hear from you. How are you? Well enough, though retirement continues to be an adjustment. I'm actually calling because I wanted to discuss something with you, a potential opportunity that I believe would benefit both you and Hero Society. What kind of opportunity? The Hero Commission is establishing a new division focused on next-generation hero development and strategy. They've asked me to help recruit leadership for the division, and I immediately thought of you. Izuku felt his pulse quicken. What would this involve? Overseeing comprehensive strategy for how heroes are trained, supported, and deployed. It would combine your analytical expertise with educational development and long-term planning. Essentially, shaping the future of Hero Society. It was an incredible opportunity, the kind of career advancement that most people would accept immediately. But Izuku had learned to consider how professional opportunities would impact his family. And I discussed this with my wife before committing. Of course. Take whatever time you need. But Midoriya, I want you to know I believe you're exactly the right person for this role. You understand hero work from multiple perspectives and have demonstrated exceptional strategic thinking. You could make a profound difference. That evening, Izuku explained the opportunity to Mirko. They talked through the implications, likely longer work hours, more responsibility, potentially more travel, but also greater ability to influence positive change in Hero Society. What do you want to do? Mirko asked. Part of me is excited about the potential impact. But part of me worries about how it would affect our family. I don't want to become the absent parent who's always working. So set boundaries from the start. Accept a position with clear expectations about family time being protected. They want you specifically, which gives you negotiating power. You really think I should take it? I think you should do what feels right for you, knowing that we'll make it work as a family regardless. But yes, I think you'd be brilliant at it, and I think the hero world would benefit from your leadership. After several days of consideration, Izuku accepted the position with stipulations: no more than 2 late evenings per week, protected family time on weekends, and the ability to work remotely when possible. The commission agreed to all conditions, confirming how much they valued his participation. The new role would begin in 3 months, giving Izuku time to transition his current responsibilities and prepare for the expanded scope of work. Ada got a new job, Hikari told Kaido importantly after being informed of the change. He's going to help make heroes better. Optimization of hero training protocols and deployment strategies, Kaido translated. That's good. The current system has inefficiencies. How do you even know about hero deployment strategies? Mirko asked her 3-year-old son. I listen when Dada talks about work. It's interesting. As spring arrived and cherry blossoms bloomed again in their garden, the family gathered for a quiet celebration of both changes and constants. Hikari was thriving in her program, Kaido was systematically exploring his world, Mirko's hero work continued to be excellent, and Izuku was stepping into a new phase of his career. The new beginnings, Mirko proposed, raising her glass of juice and a toast. The family, Izuku added. The optimal outcomes, Kaido contributed seriously, making everyone laugh. The being together, Hikari finished. They clinked glasses, four people who had become a family through love and commitment, facing an uncertain future with confidence born of facing every challenge together. Outside, cherry blossoms drifted through the garden like pink snow, beautiful and temporary, a reminder that everything changed, but some things, love, family, dedication to each other, remained constant through all transformations. Izuku looked at his wife and children, feeling overwhelming gratitude for the unexpected journey that had brought them all together. From a nervous job interview to this moment, every step had been worth it. This was his life, his family, his purpose. And he wouldn't change a single thing. Thanks for watching my video.